Hello everyone and welcome to the Mans Esports Pro Team Series, this round number 3 of 5. And as ever, to talk you through all the action here this evening is myself, Chris McCarthy, and Harry Jacks.
Yeah, pleasure to be back as always. Really looking forward to tonight's racing. Obviously we had 4 great races so far and hopefully we'll have 2 more tonight as well.
So what are we all playing for? Well, of course, we're trying to qualify for the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final, which happens at the 24-hour Le Mans in June. There are 6 places up for grabs, 16 teams trying to fight it out for it. They're scoring points at every single round. We have a sprint race and then an endurance race. So the sprint race will be coming up first. We've just had qualifying to set the grid for that. Then we'll have the endurance race after that, which will be a reverse of the championship order. And that endurance race in particular has had some really interesting racing so far. We were in the wet conditions for the first time, last time out at Silverstone. Of course, before that, we were at Le Mans as well in the Ferraris, which was also very exciting. That was our first look at the teams, wasn't it? But last round, I think we got an idea of who are the big players in this and who are the ones fighting for that 6th and final place, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously a big factor that we'll go into in a bit more detail in just a little while is that we've got 11 new drivers that are going to be on the grid for this race, or these 2 races tonight, I should say, that haven't featured in the first 2 events or the first 4 races so far this season. So the form book, although it's started to take a picture already, we can almost throw that away for this event because we're going to see a lot of new faces to see what they can deliver for their teams, and we'll see if the likes of Red Bull, Lazarus and that lot can stay at the top ahead of the field, which is what they'll want.
And we have 3 teams. We'll go through the championship in full in just a second, but we have 3 teams breaking away out front. Then it's very close. From 4th to 11th place, there's only 21 points. And considering 25 points for the win in the sprint, 38 for the win in the endurance, where every single team scores points, just the top 10 do in the sprint. A good result in the endurance race can really boost you up the order.
Absolutely. Both races, especially from this point onwards, we've always talked over the first 2 events how it's been early doors. We want to get as many points on the board as possible. Don't take too many risks because you just want to be consistent at the early stage to start building that tally slowly. Now, throughout tonight, we're going to process into the second half of the season, essentially. So you kind of got to throw everything at it now and really start making those moves you might have thought better of for the first 2 events to make sure you can try and gain every point possible, because you're going to be running out of opportunities to do so.
Well, this round we're going to be racing at the Circuit of the Americas in the 1980 Lancia course. So we're going to delve into that a little bit more in just a second. But for now, we're going to have a little look at what happened when the FIA World Endurance Championship visited the circuit.
Hello everyone and welcome to Austin, Texas, home to Circuit of the Americas, site of the World Endurance Championship Round 5, the Lone Star Le Mans. And the Lone Star Le Mans, Round 5 of the World Endurance Championship. Oh, and Nikito had to go to the touch. They touch and speed. Oh my.
Oh, that's early on. That's at turn 1.
Takes the checkered flag for the Lone Star Le Mans. Hello everyone and welcome to Austin, Texas, home to Circuit of the Americas.
What the FIA World Endurance Championship always seems to provide. So brilliant stuff, isn't it? It's great to be following this format where we're almost repeating what the FIA World Endurance Championship is doing in the season.
Yeah, it's almost replicating what we see from the real life aspect and bringing it to the virtual world, which a lot of people like to see, that the 2 of them trying to mingle as much as possible.
Well, one thing we weren't doing when the FIA World Endurance Championship went to COTA was driving in these 1980 Lancia courses. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the cars and the circuit in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so it's like a Group 5 race car from 1980 on the game especially. So you're looking at a 1.4 litre turbocharged engine, about 400 horsepower. So it's not the biggest engine in the world, but it still delivers a massive punch. So when these drivers are going to be putting the throttle down, they're going to feel it. Once the turbo lag has died down, it kicks in, then they'll be taking off. The circuit itself, only been sort of on the calendar for lots of series for about 7 or 8 years or so at this point, so it's quite a modern track. Lots of runoff, which the drivers will have to be careful of, because we've got the race stewards here making sure they're not taking a few liberties with the track limits themselves. But as long as they're well behaved, we should be in for a good race.
And we've got that massive long back straight between turns 11 and 12. on the first lap, that's definitely somewhere where you could either, I'd say, lose a lot of ground or gain a whole bunch of places, particularly in the endurance race when we have the reverse grid. I mean, it took Red Bull from almost the back of the grid, only 5 laps last time to get into the lead, but that could be done even quicker this time.
Absolutely, and that's providing they get through turn 1, first time without any issues as well, because it's probably the most inviting corner for the first lap you could ask for as any driver on the grid, apart from, I think, if you're on pole position. It's such a wide entry, and the apex is so late around the corner that you can be taking your ideal line and you find 3 cars up your inside all of a sudden. It really is that type of corner, so it's going to be one to watch out for, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they can make it through without too many troubles for both the sprint and the endurance race, and then we can have a cracking race to the checkered flag from there.
As we say, it's going to be a grid start as well, so it's going to be very, very tight into there, isn't it? It's just going to be about staying out of trouble and not picking up any damage.
Yeah, and say once you get through turn 1, especially on the opening lap, you then filter into sort of an almost single file section through the fast sort of at the S's of 3, 4, 5, and 6, almost very, very similar to Magnussen Beckett's at Silverstone that we've seen last event. So it's going to take some daring moves to try and go through there side by side, but I'm sure these guys will try it because they try anything from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and more. Well, we're getting closer to the start of the sprint race, but before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the Pro-Am class, which is going to be featuring at the Super Final for the first time this year. So we're going to have 9 pro teams, 6 qualifying through via here. We've had Williams qualify through at Autosport, 2 wildcards, but Pro-Am teams are going to be made up of 18 pro drivers and 9 AM drivers. There are 2 ways to qualify into this. If you want to be one of the pro drivers, the 18 pro drivers, you can do that via Forza Motorsport 7. The Rivals events on there is how you can qualify. Here you can see the people who have got the tickets so far. So there's been 4 Rivals events. They're the 12 drivers that have gone through. If you're the fastest in your region, you qualify through. Essentially, you have about 7 or 8 days, I think it is, to go on, set a time. You can do it as many times as possible. And if you're the quickest in your region at the end, you'll be one of the pro drivers to qualify through. The AM drivers, however, qualify through via live events, and that is open to anyone. So at the Autosport show, people were coming along to set a time on the rigs, and the 3 quickest drivers at the end qualified through. There you can see John O'Grady, Ed Brow and Luke Fletcher all qualified through. Now, our second AM event, there may be some question marks next to who's going to be coming through at Sebring. Well, we are going to find out who those 3 drivers are in just a couple of weeks' time, because of course the FIA World Endurance Championship is heading to Sebring very shortly, and we are going to be there. We're going to be set up next to the World Endurance tent. There's going to be lots of stuff going on there throughout the weekend, so make sure you come along. There's going to be some racing to enjoy as well. However, of course, you will have your chance to, if you're from that part of the world, if you're going to be at the race, go along, set a time on the rigs, and if you're the quickest at the end of the weekend, then you can qualify through. It's a fantastic thing to do while there's not any racing going on, to get a bit more of a taste of it and have a go yourself.
Yeah, you can try your hand, and whether you qualify or not, you might still pick up something that you take home for yourself, and you think, I'm going to actually get involved, like we're going to see tonight with the pro teams events, get involved that way. But for the time being, they can go to these events, whether it's Rivals or the AM series, like you say, and meet these guys in the final and take them on for the jackpot.
Just take this in. If you're at Sebring, you're watching the FIA World Endurance Championship, you could be racing on the same weekend as those guys if you're one of the 3 quickest at the Le Mans 24-hour. It was a fantastic experience last year. Speaking of Sebring, of course, we are going to be there with that AM event, the FIA World Endurance Championship, going there very shortly. And here's a little preview as to what's going to be coming up. Well, there you can see what the end goal is. That's what they're all fighting for, of course, and what you can win if you're one of the 3 quickest at Sebring as well. So let's have a quick look at some facts that we've got together for you ahead of this race. Some things to note from what we've seen over the first 2 rounds so far. So there you can see Alex McDonald for SVR Solar Vision Racing has been the only driver to compete for them so far. So each team is made up of 3 drivers each. They can do a maximum of 2 sprint and 2 endurance. Alex McDonald has used up all of his races. Hence why we're seeing a lot of drivers coming in for the first time. Red Bull took both wins last time out, and they're the only team to take 2 wins over 1 weekend. And of course, a little bit of a fun fact for you about the Lancia car there. Won its class and finished 8th overall at the 1981 running of Le Mans. Before we get into it, Harry, any predictions ahead of the race?
It's difficult.
What we're expecting to see?
It's difficult to say. So because we've got the drivers list, for these 2 races, I think every driver from the sprint race is also doing the endurance race, and a lot of them, as we mentioned, it's the first race they're doing, the first time we've seen them on track. So we'd expect the likes of Red Bull and Lazarus to still be up there because they're a good team. You'd expect to have the good drivers, or the better drivers, I should say, to keep them there rather than having weaklings. But we'll have to see how the grid forms and how we get on for the sprint race.
Yeah, well, we had qualifying. Let's go into the grid now and see where everyone's going to be starting. We do have some grid penalties to tell you about as well. 3 teams taking those, but we'll talk you through those as we go through the grid. Right, Red Bull Racing, they're currently 3rd in the championship. They're going to be on pole position. Alongside them, Team Fordzilla gained 3 places in the championship, run 9th at the moment. Row number 2, it is then Lazarus Racing and Solar Vision Racing as well. This first time we're seeing Michael Coyne. It's the first time they're changing drivers. Rise Motorsport got 6th place in the championship, gaining 3 last time with a good round. Total Performance Racing, formerly COTA, are going to be alongside them in 6th. Then we go on to row number 4. Fast Racers Forza are going to be 7th. 8th on the grid is going to be Lightspeed Esports, who are 8th in the championship at the moment. Virtual Drivers by TX3, they're 7th in the championship. They start 9th. Jean Alesi, 13th in the championship. They will start from 10th place. Then starting in 11th is Pashura. Disappointing for them. They're 4th in the championship, so they've got some work to do. 12th is Raging Dragon, who are 16th in the championship, so that's a good qualifying from them. Team Highlands Racing and Alien Motorsport are next along, and then at the back of the grid, forming the 8th row, we have VP Gaming and Legion of Racers. Right, we're about to get racing then for the sprint race. The grid is getting ready. That's how they're going to line up, and the sprint race very shortly will be getting underway. We're going to have all the teams firing into turn 1, and let's hope they get through safely. Right, that signal means that we are about to go racing. Any second now we will see the drivers leaving the grid and heading down towards the fourth corner, and there we go. So Red Bull Racing it is who leads us up the hill for the first time in towards turn number 1, straight away going defensive. There you can see Solar Vision Racing, a good qualifying from them. Oh no, but they've gone round. Solar Vision Racing, a little bit of a tap from behind there, and Solar Vision are going to drop down the field. They've gone down to at least 6th or 7th place there. There you can see they're side by side with Team Highlands Racing at the moment, so a disappointing start from Solar Vision there, Harry. Just looked like they got tagged into a spin. Speaking of, we had someone spinning there just ahead of us on screen. I'm not too sure if that was a driver who was able to recover that, but a hectic start.
Absolutely. It's the concertina effect of turn 1. Everyone checks up on the braking to get around that tight apex, and the further back through the field you are, the more likely you are to get tagged from behind and be spun around, which unfortunately they did, but at least they weren't facing completely the wrong way. They are still in a position to fight. I think the Lightspeed car managed to squeeze through right on the inside and take about 4 or 5 positions, so a great start for them. Now we're going to see how the rest of the lap unfolds into the next hairpin. You see they're all running side by side. There's a car running wide there. That might be the Rise Motorsport car being pushed down. So they're all side by side coming down the back straight. Yeah,
I was told actually Lightspeed were the team that spun a little bit further around at around turns 3 and 4. There we can see VP Gaming. They're 12th in the championship at the moment, so a good start for them so far. But coming down this back straight, they're under all sorts of pressure. They're running in 7th place at the moment. Total Performance Racing just ahead of them. I think that might be the Rise Motorsport car trying to come down the inside. Not quite able to make the move in time. Now Rise are going to try and go around the outside at turn number 13. Through turn number 14 we go into 15 and 16, and Rise getting through in the end. So it took about 6 corners to do it, but they are through, and it's getting worse for VP Gaming now. They're going to lose another place there. I think that might have been the Team Highlands car who was able to get through, but running wide at the next corner there, and VP Gaming are now going to try and get back through. So it's that long right-hander that seems to go on forever, and VP Gaming get get that place back again. So they've been up and down the order on the first lap, VP Gaming. They are now just within the top 10. This is Alien Motorsport. There we can see one of the, I think that's virtual drivers by TX3 to our outside coming along to get 12th place. They're now pressurising the Jean Alesi car ahead. So good move for them at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, climbing up the hill into turn 1 for the start of the second lap. You can see still side by side. We managed to go through pretty much the whole lap, but most points the cars were side by side. It's such a great track for that because you get so many switchback attempts to be able to go side by side. As the VP Gaming car looks like it's just recovered from a half spin at least, down to 12th now. So I think they might have got tagged into turn 1, which has dropped them back now. So disappointing for them as they were looking strong towards that, the end of that first lap, and now they found themselves dropping back through the field in such a short space of time.
There we can see VP Gaming had a little bit of trouble at the first corner there, but they are running in 12th place still, so all is not done just yet. They can still recover and get some points. So the top 10 score points in this sprint race. As you can see, it's a 9-lapper, so there won't be any pit stops. 25 points it is for the winner, 18 for second place, as we've got someone running off.
I think that's Legion of Racers have just been tagged by the Team Highlands cars. Team Highlands car was looking to make a great move around the outside of turn number 8, I believe it was, but then it pinched through the left-hander of turn 9. So by doing that, they managed to have it coming together, and unfortunately Legion Racers come off worse.
And there we saw virtual drivers by TX3 while Harry was talking us through that, just coming past VP Gaming, who we seem to be seeing all of at the start of this sprint race. So VP Gaming up into 11th place at the moment. And they're just coming into the turn 12 braking zone. VP Gaming just slotting in behind virtual drivers by TX3. So it's Red Bull Racing who are still leading, by the way. This is the battle for the last of the points. The top 10 score points in this race. And VP Gaming at the moment sitting 11th with virtual drivers by TX3 holding the final points, which would be a good result for them. So we'll get back to the leaders then and catch up what's going on there. Looks like Lazarus is in second, Fordzilla in third place at the moment. Can see Fast Racers Forza have gained 2 to run fifth. John Alesi likewise are on the move. Alien Motorsport have gained 4 places to run in 9th place. There in 11th in the championship at the moment, but only 21 points behind 4th place. So Alien Motorsport doing a good job in the early stages of this race.
Absolutely. So at the front, Red Bull off the line took a very defensive line into turn 1, managed to hold on to that lead as they needed to do, and Lazarus just slotting in behind them in second. So it's almost like a repeat of Silverstone. We've seen it a few times now where the Red Bull cars out in front, the Lazarus guys want to hunt them down. We'll have to see how they can try and sort that out throughout the next few laps. Only 9-lap race, we're on lap 3 already, so approaching the third race distance. So looking good for the Red Bull car at the moment, and Lazarus holding second, and Fordzilla up in third. Now a great qualifying from them, and this is really going to potentially boost their championship credentials if they can hold on to this podium or even challenge higher up if they can.
Yeah, Fordzilla, they had a 12th and a 15th at the first round, and then a 5th and a 6th last time out, and that 6th place could have been better. They had that spin, that incident of course at Silverstone right towards the end of the race, and that dropped them down from what was around 3rd or 4th place at the time. So Team Fordzilla, their best result at the moment is 5th. They'll certainly improve on that if they can stay where they are. So brilliant stuff from them. We're a little bit further up the field now, as we are on this 3rd of 9 laps. This is Solar Vision Racing, so we are looking back at Fast Racers Forza at the moment. Fast Racers Forza running in 6th place. 2 4th places so far for them this season, so they've had a very consistent season. They sadly had a bit of an issue at the end of the endurance race last time out when they were running within the top 5. And Fast Racers Sport, so that has taken an effect to their championship. But otherwise, they haven't finished outside of the top 6. So good season for them so far. Things seem to have spread out pretty quickly in the sprint race, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I say it died down after that lap 1. We had side by side for pretty much the whole lap at certain points up and down the grid. So it's still a good battle here for 4th with the Solar Vision Racing car and the Fast Racers Forza car. Like you say, it's such a difficult track to defend on because the apexes and braking, or the braking zones in particular, are so long that if you don't cover the inside, you could find yourself with a car up your inside. But if you do go defensive, you're then compromised on your exit. So that's what they've got to watch out for. But out front, Red Bull Racing have not got to worry about any defensive lines because they've got the track almost to themselves.
Fantastic stuff, isn't it, from Red Bull Racing. 4th and 9th at the first round, and then 2 wins last time out. They're the only team to take a win in both the sprint and endurance race at the same round. And it's fair to say, with the pace they're showing in the early stages of this race and what they showed to get that pole position, there's a good chance they could do exactly the same here.
Yeah, there's no reason not to believe that. Say Lazarus are holding on, they're keeping them honest, so any small mistake could be punished, but they're not in a position to make any immediate threats to them. So that might just be a championship ploy. They're not in a position where they need to be risking anything to gain extra points because they're quite comfortable. Lazarus especially, being top of the championship at the moment, so they're looking solid, and Red Bull obviously want to try and take on the top spot from them just for a bit of bragging rights, I'd imagine.
Just going in a little bit late on the brakes there with Fast Races Forza. I'm not sure if that was them trying to change their line to get a better exit, but there we are looking back at Fast Races Forza. We're on board with Solar Vision Racing. This is your battle for 4th place at the moment. This would be a great result for Solar Vision Racing. They're 10th in the championship at the moment, so they can stay where they are. They'll find themselves moving very close to that top 6. At the moment, they're only about 14 points, make that 13 behind the top 6, which is the qualifying spots for the super final. By the way, the grid penalties went to VP Gaming, Legion of Racers and Alien Motorsport. Alien Motorsport have pretty much made up that 5-place grid penalty already, but that was all for incidents at the first round. So you have to be at the Silverstone round, round number 2. So you have to be careful. An incident at in the endurance race at this round could have an effect carrying over to the next round, which is can really disturb your chances of getting into that top 6.
Absolutely, that's where the most points are available in the endurance race. So if you have an accident or a mistake there and it costs you positions, it's going to hurt you more than if you do it in the sprint race. The sprint race, you don't want an accident. If it's going to happen, it's not the end of the world, because the endurance race is based off of reverse championship points, not reverse sprint race order. So that's not necessarily a worry for them, but they want to be keeping it as clean as possible, because now's the time to make those points count.
We're on board with Team Fordzilla at the moment. You can see Solar Vision Racing and Fast Races Forza in the background. It appears this train has escaped from the rest of the field at the moment. Positions across the top of your screen. There you can see across the bottom, $200,000 prize pool for this season. 50,000 of those dollars are giving out in this qualifying phase alone, which is fantastic stuff for the Pro Team Series. Of course, not all 16 teams will qualify through to the super final. Only 6 will, but they will all walk home with some cash.
Yeah, which is great to see. As they're just looking at the action, whilst the Solar Vision cars almost sort of escape the Fast Races Forza car just a little bit, they can concentrate on taking their own racing lines. They're almost clawing in now to the Team Fordzilla car in front of them in that 3rd spot, the final podium spot. If they almost work together, they can maybe have a fight with them to try and take that spot away from them if possible. But the slipstream is what they're counting on, and also mistakes, I guess. It's such a track that requires such a finite racing line. If you're on that line, you're going to be gaining all the time possible. If you're not straying from that, it's easy to keep your position. But obviously, we can see them in the background, hunting them down. Just behind them, we've got the Total Performance Racing car. We're used to seeing that car top 3, really, at this point in the races, but struggling maybe a little bit on this track and this car combination.
Yeah. Behind Fast Races Forza, there's a little bit of a battle going on in the background. So there's two cars battling away there, but hopefully we can get on board with Solar Vision Racing actually and get on board with a lap, so you can see exactly what it's like to go around this circuit, the Americas circuit, in these 1980 Lancia courses, and we'll see if they can start closing in on this Team Fordzilla car just ahead of us. So here we go, Harry, I'll hand over to you as we now go on to start a lap of the circuit of the Americas.
Yep, so you're going to be heading up. You can see turn 1 up in the distance, up at the top of that hill. We're going to be climbing, then hitting the brakes, trying not to get distracted by the car in front of you as well. Make sure you spot your apex, try and get a nice late turn in. Of course, we're not doing that on this car because I've spoke that one up. So the car in front taking a wider apex gets a better run through into turn 2. A bit of a nothing corner really, although if you are running side by side it can cause you a few problems. This is where you really got to thread the needle through turns 3, 4, 5, and then the long one of 6 coming up. So this is now 5, slowing it down ever more, and then 6, almost like a double apex as you sweep through the first part, run a bit wide, then come back to the curb, holding it onto the right to come back to the left-hander. You see we're closing in on this Fordzilla car in front, and they're going to be looking to come under pressure. This is a difficult corner at the best of times. So it's one of those where you want to take it flat, you always want to take it flat, but you soon find yourself understeering off, so you've got to just lift the throttle ever so slightly, keep it in check as you now come in down to turn 11. A bit of an overtaking opportunity if you're feeling a bit brave, but normally the idea is to set up a good run out of here onto the back straight. So we're nicely in the slipstream of that Team Fordzilla car. We'll see what the effect is like. Obviously setups are going to play a part as to how much drag they're running, how much downforce they're running, but we look to be gaining just about now, about halfway down the straight. So coming into the braking zone of turn 12, we'll see if there's going to be a lunge or not from the Solar Vision Racing car. There is a lunge. Team Fordzilla covering off at the last second, just about blocking that one from happening. as they're now going to be looking to come through to turns 13 and 14, two right-hand corners. The second one almost a bit of another corner again, as you then got to set up turns 15 and 16. Always difficult braking zones. Forza, they're going defensive. They saw that one coming from Solar Vision, but if they can get the run out now, taking a nice wide apex or wide line into the apex to get a better run out, coming through the triple or quadruple apex right-hander.
Yeah.
In these kind of cars, it's very difficult because, again, it's one of those where you just want to go through it flat out, but there's no way you can do it. You've got to sort of modulate the throttle, and when you do it, it's so important. Penultimate corner, turn 19, very difficult one. The apex is almost blind as you come over the crest, easy to run wide as you come towards the final corner, about 100-degree corner. Make sure you get a nice run out of it to then start a new lap and maybe launch an opportunity into turn 1.
And breathe. There we go.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. It was all kicking off, wasn't it? Brilliant time to go on board with Solar Vision Racing there. In my opinion, Team Forzilla moved under braking, so I don't think that was. I think that was a little bit naughty from them there. Solar Vision looked absolutely committed to the move. Team Forzilla moved across as we were braking, but this certainly the best battle on track at the moment. I can tell you, I was told during that onboard lap that Team Highlands Racing will be given a penalty. They'll have to start from the back of the grid for race number 2 due to multiple contact during this race. So unfortunately for them, they've been getting involved with just a little bit too much contact for our stewards, and they will be penalised for that second race. They're running in 12th at the moment, but they will be put to the back of the grid. But here we go. Solar Vision have finally got the run, it seems. They've finally broken Forzilla, and through they go. Almost 4 wheels over the apex there. Solar Vision are going to go through. Fast Racers Forza in the background trying to follow them through. Forzilla trying to close the door. Fast Racers Forza trying to force it open, and they just about get through. And now they're going to try and line up a move on Solar Vision Racing. Yeah,
great stuff. So they open the door through at turn 9 did the Team Forza car, and the Solar Vision car forced its way through turn 10. They're not really an overtaking opportunity. Very difficult to get 2 cars through there, but they somehow managed it. And obviously Fast Racers Forza trying to take advantage of that as well. They're now up the inside into turn 12. Can they make that one stick?
Just about Forzilla hold on. It was quite interesting there as they came out of turn 11. The 2 cars were fighting for the toe as they came down that back straight, and in the end Forzilla just about won in picking up the toe of the Solar Vision. Apologies if you're here to support a team that you haven't seen at the moment, but in these sprint races we tend to have these battles form which are just too hard to look away from. So we'll go through a run through of the positions very shortly before we get into the final couple of laps, but there we can see Solar Vision just leading this trio. So it's Red Bull Lazarus, Solar Vision, this the battle for third then with Forzilla, Fast Racers Forza, then it's Total Performance Racing, Rise, Jean Alesi, TX3, Alien Motorsport, VP Gaming, Team Highlands Racing carrying that penalty, and then up towards the back of the field there, Raging Dragon along were in 13th place and didn't quite catch the final 2, but we'll run through
I think
those.
Lightspeed Esports were down there in 15th, and
Lightspeed.
I didn't catch 16th either, unfortunately. But say hotly contested battle for this final podium position. Now, looking at previous results, you'd be, not particularly clever to bet against Fast Racers Forza finishing 4th, considering they've had a 4th, a 4th, a 4th, and then an unfortunate disconnect from what was about for 4th, I think, in the Endurance Race at Silverstone. So they're odds-on favourite for this 4th position, but I'm sure they'll be looking at 3rd, because they've got to make their way past this Team Forzilla car, though, because that Solar Vision car now starting to pull a bit of a gap, and if they let it go on for too much longer, they're going to lose the opportunity, not because the Solar Vision car gets away, but we're also running out of laps.
Yeah, this would be Solar Vision's first podium and certainly their best result. As for Forzilla, this would be their best result of the season as well, but Fast Racers Sports are trying to change that. They want that 4th place, as that would be their 3rd, 4th place of the season. So as Harry said, they do like that 4th place. Now, I wonder that we've got a battle going on in the background, so we'll try and keep one eye on that as well as one eye on this battle as well. I'm sure we'll be able to see it just in the background as they come over the crest. 2 cars right together, but are Fast Racers Sports trying to are they going to try and sell the dummy here and get up the inside going into the next corner? Fast Racers Forza look to the outside. You can see just behind this, it's all going off as well, and we'll come to that in just a second. But Fast Racers Forza not quite able to get through just yet. Anytime they seem to find a gap, Forzilla are just quick enough to close the door. It's Total Performance Racing and Rise who are battling away in the background, and there we can see just a bit of a gap at the moment. Do Total Performance have over Rise, but close stuff as we approach the final lap.
Absolutely, Total Performance Racing looking to struggle, I think, around this circuit, this car combination, and Rise have been on the rise over the last event, especially compared to Event 1 and Event 2. Night and day, contrast between their results. So they're pulling their socks up and getting the points on the board, but I say the battle rages on between the cars ahead and the cars that we're on board with now.
Yeah, well, to give you an idea, Rise have had a 10th, a 7th, and then a 6th, and then a 4th. But they won't keep that trend up of improving results at every single race just yet, unless it all kicks off ahead. And there's tears for all 3 cars ahead. But at the moment, they will keep that trend up of finishing in the top 10 every single race. It's getting close again for 4th place. I could see Fordzilla and Fast Racers Forza right together again. Looked like a bit of smoke going up as I think Fast Racers Forza tried to get down the inside of Fordzilla, but likewise this battle is kicking off as well. We can see they're side by side up ahead. This is Total Performance Racing versus Rise, and we're going to cut to this battle now. Fast Racers Forza, can they finally find a way past this Fordzilla car? Yeah,
they've got half a lap or so to do just that, and I'm hoping and praying that come turn 12 we're not going to be wincing and looking through our fingers at what's about to unfold. No, this is the last chance to make the move. They're going to go for it into turn 11. They're up the inside. Can they do it under braking? Obviously, they've got to watch the exit as well because they can't afford to get done on the switchback into turn 12. But no, they've absolutely spotted their braking point perfectly. They're still going to be just about side by side, but they've now got their nose in front, and the Team Forza slotting in behind, picking up the slipstream. They're going to come back into turn 12, I imagine.
I wonder if Fordzilla was saying, yeah, you can lead us down the back straight for the final time. We'll just pick the toe up and go straight back past. At the moment, the toe doesn't seem to be having the right effect for the Fordzilla car. We're going to have to look to the outside. This is the battle for 4th place on the final lap. Oh, and Fordzilla getting out of shape, and that's that battle done with. Surely they just seem to manage to recover it in time to secure some damage limitation there. They didn't lose a lot of time to that Fast Racers Forza car. They're now all getting out of shape as well, and there's contact. Fast Racers Forza push wide. Fordzilla slow down on the exit to let them back through, but out front it looks like the leaders are about to take the checkered flag. We'll come to that very shortly. Here they are, Red Bull Racing round the final corner, and this is going to be win number 3 on the bounce. They take race number 5 victory of the season. Robin Bechter, fantastic drive, but all going off for 4th place going into the final corner. Are we going to see Fordzilla get that 4th place back? No, they can't. So Lazarus takes 2nd. Solar Vision Racing, with their best result of the season, take 3rd, and it's their 3rd, 4th place of the season for Fast Racers Forza. Fordzilla take their 2nd, 5th place of the season and match their best result. So fantastic racing. We seem to follow those 2 or 3 cars throughout the entire race, but they certainly put on a show. We didn't see these guys a lot, similar to what we had last round. Red Bull Racing running away with it and just steaming up the road. So brilliant stuff from the Red Bull Racing team. That is their 3rd victory of the season, and we'll see if we can get the full update of the results for you in just a second. But there we go, Red Bull running away with it.
Yeah, dominant again. As I say, it's a bit of a worry, I think, for most of the teams to see that kind of performance, from a different track and a different car combination. They might have put it down as a one-off from Silverstone, but clearly not, with another driver in charge of it as well. We had Aurelian last time out, Robin in the car today, and they provided the same kind of result. Stunning stuff. Lazarus picking up points, 2nd place. I think they finished in the top 2 in pretty much every race, I believe. So that's why they're top of the championship. I think they're going to stay there after this race at least, and obviously a fantastic battle from 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Obviously Solar Vision, congratulations on their podium as well. Great result from them after the first events they've had. Not the greatest results, but this is going to pick them up massively.
Yeah, well, Solar Vision 10th in the championship. We're going to see where that moves them up. They dropped 3 places last time, didn't have the best second round, but they're back on the recovery here. Fantastic result. Fantastic racing as well. We were talking earlier about what kind of racing the circuit was going to provide us, and I think it did pretty well. Yeah,
absolutely. Ideally, we'd like it to be, for 1st place and 2nd place. That's always the case. But if not, we can't complain against that kind of thing. There's multiple battles. 2 lots of 2 essentially. We had a 3-way battle at one point as well. Obviously, Solar Vision breaking through that and then steaming off into the distance for that 3rd place. But yeah, backwards and forwards, to and fro for pretty much the entire race. We love it.
We're going to have replays coming up in just a second, and we'll have Harry to talk us through those. But there was some brilliant moves. A shame we did have 1 or 2 teams running into a bit of trouble at the start. Of course, Team Highlands have picked up a penalty. I think we had Lightspeed dropping back at the start. They got involved in a little bit of an incident. It was a little bit chaotic, but I wouldn't say I was expecting it to be more chaotic, but I was worried that it might have been. I think mostly people were well behaved. Of course, Team Highlands have got a penalty, but other than that, everything seems to be all right.
Yeah, there's that old saying of Robin's racing, but there is a limit to that, of course. And when you're picking up penalties, and I think they're going to start from the back of the grid for the endurance race, that's a massive hindrance to them, especially with their championship position so precarious at this stage. But they've obviously overstepped the mark a little bit. We see a little bit of bumper to bumper and door handle to door handle. As long as it's nothing too excessive, I think the drivers know that if they give it out, they've got to be able to take it as well. So don't dish out if you can't, basically.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of fantastic racing in that race, and I'm going to hand over to Harry now, going to start us off by talking through some of the replays. So here are some of the best highlights from the race.
Yeah, so start of the race, I imagine, is going to be the starting point for us. We see the Red Bull car starting on pole, immediately darting to that inside line because they know what can happen, as we're going to see further through the field. As they start to bunch up and the concertina effect takes place, that's when the cars start coming together. And you see the Solar Vision car, although picking up third place in the end, had a disastrous start. Now getting turned around. There's a few more cars that unfortunately fell by the wayside early on. Now there's so many cars in pretty much every place you don't want them to be. It's so difficult. And then coming into turn 11, I think we've got 3 lots of cars side by side, cars being pushed completely wide. That's part of Team Highlands, I think. That's one of the instances where they might have picked up a bit of a penalty. And this is going to be the virtual drivers up the inside of the VP car. So turn 11 providing out to be the best overtaking spot compared to turn 12.
One thing I was going to say, that back straight, the toe down that back straight didn't seem to be as powerful as I thought it might be.
No, I think a lot of drivers sort of picked up on that, so they were lunging their efforts into turn 11 to get the move done there whilst they had the opportunity, rather than setting up for turn 12. Obviously, this is one of the attempts we saw from Solar Vision on Forza. It is a bit dubious when you watch it back.
What did you make of that? Because it looked like they moved under braking.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't like that happening. Now, when you see a car commit to the inside, you can't then move to block it, because that car is committed. They can't brake harder and stop earlier. They're already on the limit. So if you're going to let them do that, if you want to defend the inside, defend the inside. Don't wait for someone to make the move and then cover them off. But in the end, Solar Vision did manage to make their way through, which is good for them. And then this is the squabble for the slipstream down the back straight for the 4th place battle.
Yeah, Fast Race Forza, they just missed their opportunity to get past there. But then this is where, I don't know if it was just the tyres getting a little bit old, but they all seem to be getting out of shape on that last lap, and there was the contact.
Yeah, I think Team Forza sort of knew that they'd made the contact. They'd pushed them a bit wide, so they ended up backing off, and Red Bull coming through unscathed and looks all a bit undramatic from their side, which they'll love.
Yep, 3 wins on the bounce for them, so fantastic stuff. Well, that's the thoughts of Harry on the race. Let us know what you think. You can send in your comments using hashtag LMES. We're going to get some of those comments read out for you in just a second, so it'd be great to hear the thoughts. Thank you for anyone who's tuning in for all the support of the series, and let us know who you're cheering for. What are your predictions ahead of the endurance race? Don't forget, it's going to be a reverse of the championship order, and we're going to get that championship up for you in just a second and see if we have any big movers or indeed people dropping down the championship. So we'll see who's in that top 6. So when I get told it's ready, we will get that championship up for you. But at the moment, it is so close, isn't it, for that battle for 6th place?
Yeah, absolutely. There's not as many points available in the sprint race compared to the endurance race, as we've said, but it's always important to pick up points when you get the opportunity. So teams like Solar Vision Racing, especially in today's race so far, Team Fordzilla, who didn't have the best first event, but then throughout Silverstone and this sprint race here, they picked up a really solid position. So they're going to start slowly crawling their way up, potentially into that top 6 at this stage already. And it gives them confidence now. Team Forza, a new team to essentially esports. They've got the backing of Ford, a big name to them. So they want to be delivering. And I think they've learned from the first event, saw what they did wrong, learned where they could be better. And they've applied it so far, and it's working well for them.
Well, another great race for Fordzilla. Let's see where they are in the championship now. So we're going to get the standings up on screen for you. And there they are. So Lazarus still leading the way at the moment. They have 119 points. Red Bull Racing, 2nd place with 103 points. Total Performance Racing are 3rd place at the moment with 94 points. Fast Racers, Forza, they move up to 4th place from 5th. Pashura drop from 4th to 5th. They are tied on points with Rise Motorsport, who stay in 6th place. Solar Vision Racing move up from 10th to 7th. They have 38 points at the moment. Virtual Drivers by TX3, so they're in 8th place at the moment with 36 points, only 6 points away from a top 6 place. In 9th place is Team Fordzilla with 33 points. Lightspeed Esports at 26 points. They round at the top 10 at the moment, and then that's where I'd say Alien Motorsport are at the back of that chasing pack for that top 6 at the moment. They're there with 22 points, and then we have from 12th down to 16th Jean Lacey, VP Gaming, Team Highlands Racing, Legion of Racers, and Raging Dragon Esports. Not many changes to the points for those guys down the bottom, so they could really do with a good result in this endurance race. So there we go.
I didn't do very well with that, did I?
You got to 11.
I did my best, but
2 were missing, so
there's more than 2 missed. I'll tell you that. There's a few changes now that we've spotted. Obviously, Lightspeed Esports have dropped down from what we can see now in terms of where they started this event and now where they are halfway through event 3, essentially the halfway point of the season, if you want to put it that way. No, it's difficult to call. We're halfway point, and there's so many teams that are still in the fight. And we've seen teams like Solar Vision Racing putting on a performance today. In this case of any of these teams could still qualify. We can't really eliminate any of them, I don't think.
Can you remind me how many points Solar Vision Racing have again?
No. Everybody knows because they can rewind it about 10 or 20 seconds and find out.
Well, there we go. We're going to get that all sorted. But there you go. That's all the changes in the championship. Don't forget the endurance race, which is coming up shortly. It's going to be reverse of that championship order. So while we get that fixed, we're going to take a very quick break. So we're building up to that endurance race. It's going to be the racing in that sprint was exciting. How are the tactics going to change, do you reckon, going into this endurance race? Now, what we found at Silverstone was the endurance race was even more hectic than the sprint race. I think a lot of that was due to the reverse grid, of course, but seems to be most races we've had this season, the endurance races have been more entertaining than the sprint.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, the way the grid's out is always going to promote that kind of racing. Now, if you've essentially got the fastest, if you want to put it that way, starting at the back, and the slowest or least fast, if you want to be nicer about it, at the front, you're always going to find yourselves essentially trying to reverse that grid order, but they've got to do it on track. They've got to pass each other to make it happen, and it's not always the easiest thing. You might know you're faster than the car in front, but if you can't make that overtake stick, you can't just use your sort of authority of being higher in the championship to make your way through. You've got to fight for it, and the team that's defending's got every right to do so, and they need the points more than the faster team starting at the back. So they've got a lot to fight for, and it's going to be interesting to see who, if anyone, can make their way through and how quickly they might be able to do so.
We talked a lot about that final sixth place. They're fighting for that top six. However, we did mention during the race very briefly, $50,000 prize pool up for grabs in this part of the championship alone. So this Pro Team Series, it's getting close between those top three in the championship, isn't it? $10,000 goes to the winner of the Pro Team Series. There's only 2 rounds left after this. It is getting pretty close. We've got the points written down there, 119, 103, 94. You'd say any one of those three are capable of winning. I know Total Performance didn't have the best race there, but we know they're capable of fighting for victories and taking wins.
Absolutely. They'll be hoping that going into this third endurance race of the season, they can have a clean start, because I think both endurance races we've seen them in so far, they've had instances on the first lap that have, although they're starting near the back anyway, it's hindered their performance from what they've achieved so far in that first lap up to the point of having an accident. I think Silverstone, it was only turn 3 or 4 before they found themselves back down the grid, and obviously Red Bull were halfway through the field already pretty much at that point. That's the kind of difference we're looking at. So they need to keep their noses clean. Obviously, we've seen what turn 1 can cause in terms of problems. It's going to be crucial to see who's learnt what from the first race and take that into the endurance race and apply it.
Now, Lazarus have always seemed to have a little bit of trouble getting through the field so far this season. If they can fix that, do you reckon a fight can be taken to Red Bull in this one?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't know if Red Bull took their foot off the gas or anything in that first race, but they didn't storm it by a mile. There was only a few seconds between them, which suggests they can still fight Lazarus themselves. Take that fight to Red Bull Racing as long as they can get through the field, as you say. They've always struggled to do that better than Red Bull, I think, especially last event that we saw. Red Bull just carved their way through like the cars weren't there, whereas Lazarus took a lot longer to get through, and by the time they got to second, the gap was too large. They couldn't make up the time that they'd lost. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they get on through the first couple of laps in this one.
Well, there we go. That's the thoughts of Harry. Keep your thoughts coming in from home. Hashtag LMES through this race. We're about to get into the endurance race then. Let's get the grid on screen for you. Don't forget, it's going to be a reverse of the championship order. More points up for grabs. All teams score points in this one. 38 go to the winner. Raging Dragon Esports are going to start from pole position then. Legion of Racers are going to join them on the front row. One of these two teams could really do with a top 10 finish in this one. On row number 2, we have Team Highlands Racing. Now, they do have a penalty, so I believe they may be put to the back of the grid for this one. But 4th place alongside them will be vpgaming.de. On row number 3, then we have the Jean Alesi Esports Academy and Alien Motorsport. Jean Alesi did so well at the Autosport Teams Invitational and getting better and better in this Pro Team Series. Alien Motorsport always seem to be there or thereabouts. Can they get a big breakthrough result in this one? Let's wait and see. Next along, Lightspeed Esports and Team Fordzilla. Team Fordzilla will be starting from 8th place in this one then. Let's see how they get on from there. It's fair to say, from that 8th place, they could definitely get up the field very quickly and try and get a break on. Second half of the grid then, Virtual Drivers by TX3 in 9th, Solar Vision in 10th. 11th place will be Rise Motorsport, the first of the 6 teams to currently be in qualifying positions, with Pashura, who are in 12th place at the moment. Then in 13th place, Fast Racers Forza. 3 4th places so far for them this season. Can they get a top 3? Total Performance Racing will be in 14th place. Total Performance Racing haven't finished outside of the top 3, so pressure for them to carry that on in this one. And then we go to the back row. It's our 2 championship leaders. Red Bull Racing Esports. They're on 103 points at the moment. Lazarus, who are championship leaders, are on 119 points. And with a 9 points difference between, or 11 points make that between first and second, that gap could really close should Red Bull go and win this one. So the race is just about to get underway. The grid is being set. That is how they're going to line up. That signal means we're about to go racing. So here we go then. It's race number 6 of the Pro Team Series, and we're away and racing up towards turn number 1. We go Legion of Racers immediately trying to come down the inside there of Raging Dragon. That's the Jean Alesi car, and there go down the inside. Oh, that's Lightspeed Esports going way, way wide. Thankfully, they managed to avoid anyone, but it's Legion of Racers who are going to lead us down towards turn number 2, and contact. Jean Alesi going off. I think that might have been the Fordzilla car who went off with them as well, and the Jean Alesi team dropped all the way to the back of the field. So absolute disaster for the Jean Alesi team then as they make their way through turns 3 to 6, through turn 7, now through 8. We're getting up to the hairpin, and Alien Motorsport have taken a spin. Alien Motorsport go round. They just about get going again, and they're going to drop all the way to the back of the field. So disaster for Alien Motorsport, who had such a good endurance race last time at Silverstone with 5th place. It's going to be hard for them to better that result this time, as up ahead, smoke going as drivers locking up the brakes. You can see Red Bull there just having to go around the outside. Looks like that they might be in the top 10 already, Harry.
Yeah, some squabbling going on here. We're now 4 wide. So we're 4 wide going into turn 2, and that's why the accident happened. They've clearly not learnt a lesson. I mean, it is a straight, so I'll let them get away with it for now. But it looks like we're going to try and make it 4 wide into the braking zone. This is asking for trouble as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Alien Motorsport trying to find a way through, trying to decide which way is the best. Oh, and the Constantina effect there. And Red Bull have gone round. Red Bull Racing have taken a spin. Second in the championship, have gone round, found themselves just getting involved in all sorts of incidents, and Red Bull Racing there taking a spin, so they've now given themselves a real difficult task. There's someone else running wide as they came in towards turn number 16 there. I think that might have been the Team Highlands car. You can see them just trying to recover on the exit as they make their way to turn 17. There's the Jean Alesi car right in the middle of the picture, trying to pick their way past the likes of the Pashura car, and I think that's the Rise car as well, as they now try and hang on round the outside. They get past Rise Motorsport. Oh, and a little bit of a spin there as well. So lots of contact going on. The stewards are going to be very, very busy, and that's only the end of lap 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they got the memo that it was 28 laps and not 1 lap, because they've just gone absolutely hell for leather. They clearly didn't learn too much from the first race. We had a car in the pit lane as well for some reason, which is interesting. We're going at least 2 wide into turn 1 already again, maybe even 3. Got to make sure we don't look up the brakes. There's more smoke from cars sliding. Yeah, Pashura and Jean Alesi getting involved in a few more bits of contact. So they were really unlucky on this corner on the first lap. They just got dragged wide by a car on their outside as they try to go through their 4 wide, as you do apparently these days.
Well, it looks like Legion of Racers have done something similar to what they did in the Silverstone endurance race last time out. Stayed out of trouble, and they're benefiting from that. They've just escaped out front for the time being. There's a battle going on for second place, which we'll hopefully pick up in just a second. It's looking very close towards the front of the field as we have the championship leaders trying to make their way up the order. Lazarus are already into third place, and there they are. So Lazarus, they haven't done this so far this season. They haven't had an endurance race where they've been able to get up the field quickly. At the first round at Le Mans, they had an incident. The second round, they just weren't able to get through as quickly as the others did. Now they're staring at the back of the Raging Dragon car, and are they about to make a move going into turn number 12? This would be great news for Lazarus, and there they go down the inside. Lazarus goes straight into second place. Fantastic stuff there from the championship leaders, and with Red Bull down in 15th place, this is good work from the Lazarus team.
Yeah, I believe that's Ross May. His first time we're seeing him in this event, and he's done the sprint race and now doing the endurance race. This is the benefit of staying out of trouble. This is why it's so important in these races, because you've seen what's happened to Red Bull, although of course it's not their fault that they were spun around, but taking extra avoiding action of certain things can land you in a position like Lazarus where they're fighting for the lead at the end of lap 2. Unbelievable.
You're going to be very busy with the replays later. That's only one lap. Well, there we can see, that's Legion of Racers. I think that was out a bit of contact with the Lazarus team there. That was for the lead of the race, so we've had a change of lead then. That looks like the Rise car has gone into lead. Look, it's all kicking off for the lead there. This isn't the first lap, this is lap number 2, and Lazarus have gone off, so another one of our championship leaders off. Lazarus, I'm not quite sure how that happened really. Seemed like they were trying to let that Legion car back through, and then they just got caught up in an instant. But we're almost 3 wide for the lead. We're going to have to pick the leaders up because it's all going off up front. There you can see Legion of Racers getting all out of shape there as we now go on board. I think this might be the VP Gaming car we are on board with. There you can see the top 3 ahead of us. So we have Fast Racers Forza, then we have Raging Dragon, and it's Rise Motorsport who have come up into the lead. So Rise Motorsport, who have been the biggest improvers throughout the season, constantly getting better and better with every result. And Rise Motorsport are now in the lead of the race.
Yeah, it's so hard to understand. And
what's the spin?
That's someone going wide out of second place, isn't it? That's the which car?
That's Raging Dragon.
It is. So they were looking strong, and now it's so hard to explain who's ended up where they are and why they've ended up there, because there's so much going on. I don't want to claim a commentator's curse on Lazarus by explaining that's what happens when you stay out of trouble. Then 2 corners in a row they find themselves in contact and down the grid. So apologies for that, guys. But the VP Gaming car up into 4th place. Good start for them. It's so chaotic though. I mean,
what's going on
it's so dangerous out there. I mean, it's so dangerous. You go into every braking zone and you might have a car up your inside and 2 more on your outside as well. It's impossible.
You sound like my mother when I used to race, basically. It's too dangerous. Well, there goes Lazarus, 3 wide. That's going to give them 2 more places up into 3rd place. To the outside there, that looks like was that the Fast Racers Forza car trying to make places. I was just trying to spot who that was to the outside, trying to make some moves as well. Didn't quite catch who that was. I think that's Total Performance Racing, in fact, who have come up to about 5th place. So they were the car that's trying to move up some places. Virtual Drivers by TX3 are just behind the Lazarus car here. Then it is indeed Total Performance Racing, VP Gaming. Then we have Raging Dragon. Then Lightspeed Esports after running tremendously wide at turn 1. Red Bull Racing, Legion of Racers, once the race leaders are next along in about 10th place. You can see Solar Vision Racing all the way at the back of the field. So a good first race, not going so well in this one.
Yeah, turned on its head, unfortunately, for Solar Vision. I presume they've been caught up in an accident somewhere. They might have been the car in the pit lane on the first lap. So there was a car doing that. So I don't know if they'll be able to go to the end from this point. It's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Maybe they might have pulled a blind. If they can go to the end of the race and they've avoided all this carnage and just had clear air to get on with it, they might find themselves in a position to challenge. But the Red Bull car, we saw it get spun around, was at the back of the field by about 5 seconds. It's already back up into 9th position. It's chaos, absolute chaos.
It's really going off, isn't it, in the early stages of this endurance race. This round number 3 of the Le Mans Esports Pro Team Series. We did say it was going to be exciting. We did say it could be chaotic, and entertaining it is indeed. This is Fast Racers Forza we are on board with. We are looking back at the Lazarus car at the moment, who are in 3rd place. We have a battle going on just in the background there for 4th place as well, being led by, I think that's the Fast Racers Forza car. Total Performance Racing are in that battle as well. So Rise leads, Fast Racers Forza we're on board with, Lazarus, Virtual Drivers by TX3, battling away with Total Performance Racing. Then we have VP Gaming, Raging Dragon are next along. They're holding their own at the moment, up there in about 7th place. Raging Dragon, that would be a brilliant result for them if they can keep within the top 10 come the end of the race.
Yeah, great opportunity if Fast Racers Forza. They're currently running second with the Rise car ahead of them. They're the best results of 4th place 3 times. They've clearly got good pace and good consistency. So although they've got the Lazarus car pressuring them, we know the Lazarus team is very quick in general. And they've been running as high as second after obviously the incidents they've had. They've found their way back down the grid, back up to third again within a couple of laps. It's so heads and tails as to where these cars are ending up lap after lap. You see them drop down the field and then next lap comes around, they're behind the car that we're riding on board with. It's crazy.
And just so happens that Fast Racers Forza are 4th in the championship as well.
Of course they are.
It'll probably get to the end of the season if they're in 3rd. They'll purposely drop back to 4th place in the championships and they can claim it. But running a little bit wide there were Fast Racers Forza. Lazarus are going to close in. Virtual Drivers by TX3. You can see in the background Lazarus getting close to lining up a move here. Is it worth Lazarus trying to work with Fast Racers Forza to try and get past the Rise car?
No.
In fact, no, they're not. I think that was Fast Racers Forza running wide. Either that or they're just allowing Lazarus through because Lazarus now go into second and now the chase is on.
I think they saw that move coming, and once the car does that, the only thing you can do is basically take as wide line as possible to try and get them on the exit, but they couldn't get the run down through turn 2. Lazarus now making a good move. They've just got to keep their nose clean now. They know they can take on that Rise car and potentially overtake it. They know they've got the speed. The championship position obviously suggests that they have. If they can make that move with Red Bull struggling in the midfield still after their earlier incident, they've got a great chance to possibly pick up maximum points from this race. But no, they've got to get through without any issues.
Well, we can see we just had a look at Team Fordzilla there. They're in this queue and are battling for the lower order of the top 10 at the moment. They're just behind Lightspeed Esports at the moment. Lightspeed Esports look like they're about to line up a move on the VP Gaming car. They don't. Oh, Fordzilla, well, that was them going way too deep on the brakes. And for good measure, they brake tested Lightspeed Esports as well as they were trying to allow that VP Gaming car back through. So Fordzilla a little bit flustered in the early stages of this one.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate. I mean, it's never going to work, that kind of move. Way too late on the brakes, and then in trying to let that car come back on the track, they then held up the Lightspeed Esports car as well. I don't think they'll run into too many issues with the stewards for that one, just an unfortunate circumstance. But they've got to calm down at some point. There's still a long way to go. They can't beat these cars up too much. So they might not make it to the end.
Well, we'll see how many actually get there at this rate. So we have the Fordzilla car then battling with Lightspeed Esports just ahead of them. So this is going to be battle resumed with VP Gaming just ahead. I hear the top 3 are starting to get very close once again. So we'll have a look at that battle in just a second. But here you can see Team Fordzilla, 8th place, not too far ahead of them. We've got Lightspeed Esports just ahead, and then VP Gaming after that as well. But it looks like 8th place running wide there, and there go Lightspeed Esports. They're going to take that 8th place, and going into 9th place will be Team Fordzilla. That was the Pashura car, wasn't it? In fact, that was running wide, and they've now dropped to 10th place, but back with the top 3.
Yeah, so we're still looking at Lazarus in 2nd place, obviously Rise still leading the way, and we're on board with the Fast Racers Forza car, not in their traditional 4th place, but 3rd place currently.
Yeah.
So they're sticking with Lazarus. That's a good sign for them. They might now be doing the working together part that you mentioned, just in reverse order of what they probably would have liked it to have been. But we've seen that they would have experienced in the first race what happens when you're the 3rd car in a battle and the 2 in front of you, start fighting each other. You can try and pick a way through. We saw Red Bull do it in the endurance race last time out, where the cars front were battling and they managed to sweep through on the inside of the final corner and take 3 cars in one move. It can be done, but obviously when you're fighting this high up the field, you want to be the car in 2nd, just putting the pressure on the leader.
Tell you what, Red Bull are not a million miles behind this either. They're in 6th place. I wonder if we can get a look at how far behind they actually are from these guys, because it is close for the lead, but Red Bull are in 6th place, so we may just be able to see them in the background. So they're getting closer and closer, but the battle for the top 3 certainly very close. Raging Dragon, by the way, have just gone past the Pashura car, so the lead is sticking together at the moment. There you can see the top 3, so there is Red Bull. They're not far behind at all, and with the top 3 battling away, likewise 4th and 5th, Red Bull could be making positions, getting into the top 5 very shortly.
Yeah, they've got a bit of clear track at the moment. I'm sure that's not going to last too long, because they've got a lot of speed on that car. I think they are on pole position by nearly half a second for the sprint race, so they've obviously got a setup and a driver that works well with this car and track combination. So with a bit of clear track whilst these guys are battling, these guys need to make the move sooner rather than later, because if they dwell on it too long and try and pick too much of a perfect opportunity, that Red Bull car, and indeed the cars in 4th and 5th, will find themselves in the battle as well. And we've seen what happens when multiple cars go to town on each other. It just ends in, well, disaster.
Tell you what, Bryce doing a brilliant job here in the lead of the race. Their best result is 4th, so they haven't had a podium so far this season, Rise Motorsport. But they are looking very comfortable leading the race, it's fair to say. They've got Lazarus behind them, who have finished inside the top 2 in every single race so far this season. And they look comfortable leading them, it's fair to say. Yes, Rise doing a brilliant job here. Here is that Lightspeed Esports car that we were looking at earlier, battling away with Fordzilla. Fordzilla look to the outside, try to get the switch back, but they're going to now be on the outside for turn number 2. This is the battle for 8th place on circuit. But the lead is where it's all going off, and there's going to be some changes, I'm sure, there very, very shortly. So we'll pick those guys back up in just a second. But this is what's going on a little bit further down the top 10. Lightspeed Esports, I think there may have been a slight touch there from the Fordzilla car. Lightspeed getting a little bit out of shape. They just recover it back again. Fordzilla now looking to the outside, going in towards turn number 8. I think just behind this is the Pashura car closing in as well. So all kicking off in the lower order of the top 10. There you can see the car behind just closing in at the moment. I believe that is the Pashura team. As we go now through turn number 11 and on to the back straight. And now are we going to see this Fordzilla team get through? Just in the toe of Lightspeed, you can see the toe not working very well there for Team Fordzilla. It's been like that so far in the sprint and endurance races.
Yeah, I think that's part of what the problem is as to why we're seeing sort of a lot of contact, if you will, in terms of the slipstream's not getting them as far alongside as Lightspeed run a little bit wide, which now allows the Fordzilla car to go through, and I think Lightspeed sort of let them have that one after the contact they've been receiving so far. Yeah, going back to my point, I think the slipstream's not working as well as they'd like, so they're not as far alongside as they'd like to be into the braking zones, which is why we're seeing these late braking manoeuvres, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, which when they don't, that's when you get the contact. And I think Red Bull were a victim of that earlier, and a lot of other drivers seem to be victims of that as well. But I think you can tell these drivers aren't the ones in charge of paying for the repair bills for these cars, because they don't seem to be treating them like they care too much. I think they need to rein off a little bit. I think it's all well and good getting stuck in, but when you're constantly hitting people wide or tagging people around, you've then got to wait up and let them back through so you don't receive a penalty, and you're just costing yourself time at that point. You can't afford to keep doing that in a race as long as this one.
Well, Lightspeed Esports are going to have Raging Dragon to deal with now, and then behind that we had Alien and Pashura battling away as well. But we return to the top 3, and it's still as you were. It looks as if Lazarus are perhaps going to leave this to a pit stop battle. You'd say all of these top 3 teams at the moment seem comfortable just following each other around, and perhaps that's the tactics they're thinking of at the moment. Just wait for the pit stops and try an under and overcut.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as they're driving around like this without too many issues, they got decent pace. The Red Bull car's still lurking behind those 2 in 4th and 5th, so if they're stuck there, they're not going to be getting too much on the top 3. Whilst they're running nose to tail and not running side by side and running into each other, more importantly, they're not costing each other too much time. So yeah, they might be playing the long game, see where each other's weak and where the strengths are, and then obviously see what happens with the pit stop window as well. Unless there's a golden opportunity to make a move without losing too much time, then they'll go for it. But for now, I think you're right, they seem to be biding their time and let things settle down a little bit.
It looks like we've got a 3-way battle forming behind. Red Bull, I could see, we're very, very close to 5th place, so it looks like they're about to make their move. There you can see, just in the background, Red Bull, we're going side by side for 5th place. I'm sure we'll pick that up in just a second, and in the background, I think that move may have just been completed. So Red Bull Racing battling away with Total Performance Racing. And that is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th place at the moment. This is your top 3. There you can see in the background, Red Bull once again trying to make that move on Total Performance Racing, and now they get through. They're going to be on the outside for the next corner though. I'm sure we'll pick that battle up in just a second. And there we can see it now. So Total Performance Racing, formerly known as COTA, battling away with Red Bull. Red Bull at the moment not quite able to get through. Looks like the TPR car putting up a stern defence. Yeah,
Aaron Martin Pilkington in that Total Performance Racing car, trying to defend from Robert Becker in the Red Bull Racing car. No, I think they'll be a little bit disappointed, Martin Pilkington, with the performance. No, obviously we're so used to seeing them up in the top 3, and they're struggling a little bit, but they're holding up essentially what is the fastest car at this combination circuit and doing a good job. But it looks like there might be a move coming into turn 1 if they're not careful. There goes the Red Bull car up the inside late on the brakes. Can he get it slowed down in time? A little bit of an undercut from Total Performance Racing as they head into turn 2. Going to be on the outside though, so it's going to be difficult to make that one work, and they tucked in behind, so Red Bull make that move and they're up into 5th, just behind the virtual drivers by TX3 car.
That's 1 down, 4 to go if Red Bull are going to continue this form of taking wins. They've had 3 on the bounce so far. Could they make that 4? Going to have to get past the virtual drivers by TX3 car first, and in for them is Julien Bonnet for this round. So doing a good job so far, hanging on to that 4th place. Virtual drivers, they started the season brilliantly with a 3rd place, and since then they have finished inside the top 10, 6th, 9th, 9th and 8th. So looking to try and match that podium that they got early in the season, but I'm sure a 4th place they'd be very happy with. In terms of the championship, virtual drivers 8th place, so they are fighting to try and get inside that top 6. So really, if you're Julien Bonnet, you'd probably just allow the Red Bull car through and slot in behind.
Yeah, it's something that you've got to weigh up, whether it's worth risking a collision and losing too much time battling a car that you know is probably going to be faster than you, make its way past you eventually, and just letting them go by without too much of a fight so you can carry on with your own race, not get involved in someone else's, and then pick up some vital points. As you say, 8th place wouldn't be enough to see them into the super final later this year, but if they can remain in sort of 5th, 4th, 5th place without having an incident and then spinning around and losing a handful more, that could be beneficial come the end of the season.
It's already in. Robin Vector has already gone now into 4th place for Red Bull Racing, but in doing so there is now a gap to the top 3, and the top 3 don't look like they've been fighting each other too hard. For now they've been happy to stay where they are. There you can see them just up in the distance. I wonder if this will start changing the tactics of the likes of the team Lazarus in 2nd place. If they can see or hear a Red Bull car is closing in behind, will Fast Racers Forza decide to make a move for 2nd? Likewise, will Lazarus try and up the pressure on our race leaders, Rise Motorsport?
I'd imagine so. I imagine the introduction of Jaws music would be about appropriate now, wouldn't it? Just starting. So they've got a bit of clear track in front of them now, the Red Bull Racing car. They can see the top 3 will group together. They know that's where the battle is, and I'm sure they want to join it as quickly as possible. We'll see how quickly they can break away from 4th or 5th. Obviously, they can't afford to make a small mistake here, because that virtual driver's car might find its way back past. As we've got some side-by-side action through the S's, which is risky.
Yep, this is Lazarus now looking to the outside, so we're just on cue as Red Bull get into 4th. Lazarus decide it's time to turn up the heat on the leaders, and Lazarus are going to take the race lead. So brilliant driving there, and Lazarus take the lead of the race. So Rise Motorsport dropping to 2nd. The pressure is not done for them, though. Fast Racers Forza, will we see them try and move down in towards turn number 11. Rise going ever so slightly defensive there, and it's now going to be the long run down towards turn number 12, and that small little battling behind between Fast Racers Forza and Rise has given Lazarus just a little bit of a break now. They've already broken the toe, I think it's fair to say, and now they can just concentrate on getting their heads down and trying to establish a lead before Red Bull eventually make their way to this fight.
Yeah, crucial to get that move done at some point. Obviously, sooner the better for them. It's so difficult being the middle car in a three-way battle, because you've got the looming car behind you, wary of whether they're going to make a move at some point, whilst also trying to concentrate on the car in front and where they're going, whether you can make a move. But it looks like the Fast Racers Forza car trying to follow Lazarus through as soon as possible, but Rise putting up a solid defence as they have done all race so far.
Well, it's a hard decision, isn't it? Fast Racers Forza, as much as they want to get past, they know that putting up a really fierce battle with the guys ahead, with the Rise car ahead, will just allow Red Bull Racing to close in even quicker. So Red Bull Racing, with the pace they're setting, should close in, but Fast Racers Forza could delay that by trying to work with the Rise team here. But likewise, they can see Lazarus escaping out front, so it's a really difficult position for them to be in.
Yeah, I mean, in the space of a half a lap, they lost a second to Lazarus already, and say if Fast Racers Forza don't make that move soon and the Red Bull car comes up behind them and passes them, you know what position they're going to find themselves in, don't you?
Yes,
so
it's their favourite one.
Exactly that. So they need to get on and make this move. Rise obviously doing a good job. They're there for a reason. They are a quick car, but obviously we've seen Lazarus get past, and now we're seeing them pull away. So they've obviously got a bit more pace about them. Fast Racers Forza, I feel, are probably in the same boat, maybe not to the same extent, but catches one thing, passing is quite another.
There is
That's Alien Motorsport running wide, isn't it?
Yes,
down at
it
turn
is.
1.
Alien Motorsport, Brandon Reed in for them this time. One of many teams to introduce a driver for the first time. 11 teams in total bringing drivers in. Brandon Reed was one of those, and a little bit of a mistake for him. The Shura car is just ahead. Mateus Kamowski in for them at the moment. I definitely didn't say that right, but we'll go with it for the time being as we return to our battle for second place. Rise Motorsport with Fast Racers Forza just behind, and in the background is that a fight for fifth place I can see happening as well. We did see two cars side by side in the background. I believe that was behind Red Bull Racing. This is the Lightspeed Esports car with another new livery. not quite sure what it's for, but Lightspeed Esports nevertheless carrying another new livery for this round, and at the moment they are battling for 9th place.
Yeah, so some good points on offer for these positions, although it's just inside the top 10. You know, you look at going to 11th and downwards, you only get 1 point, so every point position from this point, as they get an absolute smack from behind, that's unfortunate for them. They've just about caught the spin, unlike Red Bull earlier, but disaster for them to be tagged around today. That was quite a hard hit. They've done well to catch that, but it's put them to the back of this train, and we'll have to see whether they actually get that position back or not, or if there's going to be a penalty dished out, because that was quite a hard hit they received.
A disaster for Callum Lawrence, and just getting out of shape there, so another tribute livery for them appearing this time, so good stuff for them. I'm sure they'll try and keep that up throughout the season, but disappointing that for Callum Lawrence, not for the first time, in a little bit of trouble in the race, and once again has to get back on the recovery. It's always tough when you find yourself in that pattern of every time you get back in a rhythm, you find it disrupted again. But let's go on board with Red Bull for this lap then. Harry, why don't you talk us through the lap?
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we don't end up with an overtake at some point during this lap. You see, the gap that it was a couple of laps ago is probably about 3 or 4 seconds. They've caught that up already. So coming through the S's section for the first sector, this double right-handed apex, trying to keep it over to the right-hand side to open up the left as much as possible, and then through an ever-tightening right-hander, and then the frustrating one of turn 9. Very difficult. Make sure to get a good exit to then slingshot your way through turn 10, which is going to be flat, running just a little bit wide, and then going to be coming down into the brake zone of turn 11. I don't think they're going to be close enough to make a move, as we'll probably now see them fire up the inside. They don't, so I was right for once on that one. Looking to get a good exit now then. If they haven't made the move into turn 11, they need to get a good exit to carry the slipstream, which, as we've mentioned before, doesn't seem to be as effective as these drivers would like. Hugging the right-hand side for the shortest route down this slightly curved back straight heading into turn 12. It'll be brave to make the move there, but they're pulling out of the slipstream. They've made it, their intentions clear. They're sneaking up the inside. Fast Racers Force are giving them the move. Probably saw that one coming. I think they know that it's not really worth fighting that one at this stage, because the Red Bull car is just ultimately that much quicker. And so we're not even half race distance yet, so I think it would have been too much of an ask for them to hold on to that position for the rest of the race, but they can now use the Red Bull car to try and claw their way up through the top 2 with them if possible. Once Red Bull start putting the pressure on the Rise car in second, they might be able to take an opportunity from that as well for themselves.
Well, we've had a penalty for the Pashura Motor Centre team, so Pashura picking up a 10-second penalty. They're down in 13th, so a bad day gets even worse for the Pashura team. Don't forget, they had a 2nd place at the opening round in the endurance race. They had a fantastic race. There was a couple of penalties that helped them get to that 2nd, but nevertheless, it was a brilliant drive from the Pashura team, and there you can see them on screen at the moment. Mateus in for them this round, and unfortunately, they have picked up a penalty, so they're running in 13th place. This is quite a busy part of the field, isn't it? As Pashura almost getting themselves another penalty potentially there. Got 1 or 2 drivers just running wide up ahead of us, but they've got Lightspeed ahead of them. Lightspeed are pulling to the outside at the moment of the Shauna Lacey car in the fight for 11th place. And up ahead we have potential position changes coming up as well. So I think this is the battle in total for about 8th or 9th place, isn't it? So just down the lower order of the top 10, where valuable points are up for grabs. We have 38 for the winner, 27, 23, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, 2. So that's how the top 10 get points, and then it's 1 from 11th to 16th. So as you get into that top 10, points become more and more valuable. So position changes become, if you go from a 10th place to an 8th place, you're gaining 4 points, which could be the difference of finishing 7th or 6th at the end of the season. Yeah,
absolutely. It's what we keep saying now. Every position is worth fighting for, especially in this endurance race within the top 10. It's difficult for the Pashura car, because I think they've had the instant. I think it might have been them a lap ago that hit the Lightspeed Esports car in front of them. As we've got the John Lacey car getting tagged again by another car. That's coming out of turn 11. Yeah, the Lightspeed car is one of them where they run a little bit wider than the Lightspeed car. And then by doing that, they sort of come across the nose of the John Lacey car, and it's dragged them both wide. Similar to what happened on lap 2 of the first race, so we saw the John Lacey car going firing off on the exit of turn 2 as well. So again, they've been involved in a similar kind of incident, unfortunately for them, but they live to fight another day at least. And look up ahead, we have the Pashura car here, and just ahead of this rather, we have a good scrap going on for 9th place now.
We can see two cars side by side at the moment. We'll pick that up in just a second. So just ahead of this, Alien Motorsport involved in that fight. Of course, they had a little bit of trouble earlier in the race, but we'll come back to that in just a second as we go with Rise Motorsport, Red Bull Racing just behind them. This the fight for second place. Red Bull at the moment choosing to stay behind, as now trying to get the switchback out of turn number 1. This is for the second place in the standings now. So Lazarus leading. Rise Motorsport we're on board with, Red Bull Racing just behind us. We're at the halfway stage of the race, but we will be when we get to the end of this lap. So will teams start thinking about coming into pits, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be playing on their mind as to whether it's worth doing early, sooner rather than later. Now, if you're caught in a bit of a battle, it might be worth doing. Obviously, a team that needs to be making the most of this is going to be Lazarus. Now, they're in the lead ahead of this Rise car, who we know can defend very well. They've held off, I should say, the Lazarus car and the Fast Racers Forza car for a number of laps already this race. Obviously, the Red Bull car itself is another matter entirely. They seem to be a little bit quicker than those cars just mentioned. But whilst Rise are still in seconds, they lose the back end coming out of turn 11, and that might be the gift that Red Bull needed. Yeah,
Red Bull are going to pull alongside, and getting this place might have just become a whole lot easier as Red Bull Racing there take second place there. Past Rise Motorsport they go. They're going to have to defend still going down towards turn number 12. Rise Motorsport looking to the outside, and Fast Racers Forza just behind trying to see if they can sneak a place, but they run a little bit wide, and that's cost them a few tenths of a second. So Rise now tucked in behind Red Bull Racing, and Red Bull Racing will begin their hunt for the race lead, which is currently being held by Lazarus. We'll keep an eye if anyone comes into the pit lane, and we'll see who is going to come in to make their stops. We believe, or I do believe, we will be seeing at least one pit stop per team in this race. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, VP Gaming. Well, that was way too ambitious there, going clattering straight into the side of another car. And VP Gaming, well, they came off a lot worse than the other car did, thankfully. But this a very hectic battle lower down the field. We can see VP Gaming behind John Lacey once again, making a little bit of contact. As I think this is the battle which is being led. I think it might be being led by Raging Dragon in 9th place. Then we have Lightspeed Esports behind that. So Raging Dragon leading this queue at the moment. It's 5 battling for it. Lightspeed Esports just behind. This is VP Gaming trying to get past the John Lacey car. Raging Dragon have the Lightspeed Esports car coming down the inside. Someone peeled off into the pit lane there. The John Lacey car just about holding off the VP Gaming car. So who was it that came into the pits? It was Pashura who came into the pits. So they are the first of the teams to make a stop.
Yes, obviously they've seen this sort of 5-car battle and think, I've had enough of that. I want a bit of clean air, and it's probably
best
the right
thing to do. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen a lot of, as I said, rubbings racing. I don't know if these guys have been crossing the line a bit too much. I think there's a lot of frustrated drivers out there, which is now causing more bumper-to-bumper contact as they're getting frustrated driving around. With these with the bits of contact they're having. And the Pashura car here, you can see making its way out of the pit lane. So a bit of clear air, a bit of clean track. We'll see what they can do. Obviously, they're going to be heavier on fuel now, so they lose that compared to the cars that's still out there on a lighter fuel load. Fresher tyres though, clearer track, not got to worry about fighting other cars. We'll see which one works out in the end.
Yeah, they're trying the undercut on what could potentially be 2 teams here. Make it 4 if they were to lose 2 places, but I think that was a pretty sensible time for them to come in, as we are staying with VP Gaming at the moment. They're in 12th place. We have the John Lacey car ahead, and them 2 fighting away for 9th and 10th places just ahead of this. So VP Gaming, Johan Ackerman in for them for this round, and just trying to make some places up. They came into this round 12th in the championship, VP Gaming, so they could do with a real high score at some point. As we can see up ahead, it looks like we were side by side there. I think that may have been the Lightspeed Esports car, was it? That was running side by side. We'll pick that up in just a second. But I wonder if we're going to see more cars now peeling off into the pit lane at the end of this lap.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's probably going to be one of those calls for the drivers to basically do the opposite of what the car in front does. So if the car in front stays out, you come in. If the car in front comes in, you stay out. It's going to be, well, I'd imagine that's how it should play out for these guys, because I think a lot of them, probably all of them, think if I wasn't battling these cars, I can drive an awful lot faster. So they'll have to work out what's going to be happening, as it looks like they're all going to stay out. So they're ignoring my advice, and I can't really blame them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, VP Gaming, I'm here, of course, when we came to them, there was that. Oh, and was that a spin? Yes, Pashura have gone round. Raging Dragon, have gone round and just about managed to keep that from going all the way round. So was styled quite nicely in the end, but Raging Dragon, well, they were running in what would have been their best position of the season so far, but unfortunate incident for Raging Dragon, just running too wide out of the last corner, and that's going to lose them a whole lot of places, so a shame for them. We do have a penalty for VP Gaming is what I was going to say, but when we came to them there was that big incident, and VP Gaming are now carrying a 30-second penalty.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if there's any contact that resulted in that spin for a Raging Dragon, but one thing with this track is we've got some more door handle to door handle action coming through turns 8 and 9. That tyre wall on the inside is always going to be looking to claim a few names, as it's going to be side by side. Solar Vision Racing and VP Gaming just about surviving each other's company here. But yeah, the Raging Dragon car unfortunately just losing out the final corner itself, as Solar Vision back up the inside of the VP Gaming car, looking to make it stick under brakes. They've forced their way through with a bit of muscle, and it looks like they're going to continue that battle down the back straight.
Yeah, so battle resumed. Here we go. Solar Vision in front for now, though. They're going to be grabbing a little bit of a toe from Jean Lacey, which may just help them stay ahead. So I haven't heard of any other teams coming in. We'll see if and when teams are going to decide to come into the pits. We've had one come in already, so we may see a flurry of pit stops very shortly, or will we?
That's the thing. I don't believe there is a mandatory pit stop. So if they can get to the end, then by all means. But we'll have to see whether this car and its fuel tank and this track combination can get to the end. As I say, it's surprising we've not seen more pit stops in this phase of the race, considering we're well over halfway at this point. 14 laps have been halfway. We're now 3 laps over that, and we've only seen, I think, 2 cars in the pits at this stage. So we'll have to see if they actually need to pit. That's one thing we hadn't actually considered up to this point. We always presumed they'd have to make a pit stop, but that might not be the case. This might be it, just on-track action from checkered flag to finish flag, or start lights to checkered flag. That's what I meant. Get it right eventually.
We got there in the end. Yeah, second attempt is fine. But so far this season, they have all stopped once. Haven't they? At Le Mans, we had pit stops. At Silverstone, they all came in once. Was that our team that came in there? Just trying to remember who it was that peeled off into the pit lanes during that.
Pashura.
It was Pashura, wasn't it? Yeah. So is that just Pashura trying something different? Are they thinking we can get to the end, but why not try and get a fresh set of boots on and see what we can do with it?
Yeah, I mean, they might have had damage as well. It might be something that the pit crew might have been able to fix for them, so they might feel that they might be able to gain a bit more lap time by coming in, having some damage fixed and going back out again. I mean, you do lose an awful lot of time in the pit, so it would seem strange to come in if you don't have to do that. You can make it to the end, but we'll have to keep eyes on them. I think they are back in 16th place now because of that, but the Fast Racers Forza car and the Rise Motorsport car resume battle once again. And just up ahead we've got the returning battles of the 2 titans at the moment of Lazarus and Red Bull Racing.
Yeah, I think we should pick those 2 leaders up, because it looks like we've got a fight for the lead, and just as we say that, there we go. So Lazarus versus Red Bull. Not for the first time this season, these 2 have been at the front of the field all the way. Well, I say Red Bull, bar the first round where they had a 9th place in the endurance, they had a 4th place in the sprint. But other than that, it's been wins all the way through. As for Lazarus, they have had they've had 4 second place finishes and a win, which they took in the endurance race at the first round, which was in the Ferraris at Le Mans. So can they get that second win of the season? What do they do? Do they try and defend from Red Bull? I mean, defending for 10 laps would be pretty difficult, but do they try and disrupt Red Bull's momentum? Do they try and drop them into the clutches of 3rd and 4th place behind with the likes of Rise and Fast Racers Sports? What would be your tactics if you're on that Lazarus car?
I think they've got to try and just go for it, essentially. They're at the top of the championship at the moment, essentially not necessarily nothing to lose, but they've probably got less to lose than a lot of other teams at this point in the championship. And there's money on the line, there's bragging rights on the line. We've seen how quick that Red Bull car is. They've won 3 on the bounce, looking for a 4th, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for Lazarus to do something and to try and stop that momentum that Red Bull have got. We've got Ross May behind the wheel. First event, as we've said, for this season so far. Obviously done a great job in the sprint race, doing a good job so far holding off the Red Bull car for the lead. Obviously we've seen him make a few overtaking manoeuvres already to get into the position, but that Red Bull car looks pretty much unstoppable as he now gets the inside line down the back straight, and that's going to be very hard for Lazarus to defend coming into the braking zone.
Yeah, Red Bull Racing just about alongside, and they've got a little bit more momentum. So is this going to be a change for the lead? Red Bull, despite having a spin earlier on, are going to take the race lead on lap number 18 in towards turn number 12, and there's absolutely nothing Lazarus can do about it. Textbook block pass there from the Red Bull team. They're going to have to do a little bit of defending going in towards turn 13 as we now make our way up towards turn 16. You'd feel Lazarus, if they want this lead back, they're going to have to try and take it almost immediately, but we can't write these guys off because they have had a win this season. It's just that Red Bull's form in rounds 2 and 3 have just been that little bit better than anyone else's, but this is going to be interesting now to see if Red Bull can be tested now they've got pressure from Lazarus behind.
Yeah, I think if anyone's going to be able to pressure Red Bull at this event, it's going to be the Lazarus team. So, as you just mentioned, they've got to strike whilst the iron's hot, so to speak. It's a case of they just made the move, they're just in front of them. If they let this go on for a lap or two longer, I think Red Bull will be able to pull a bit of a gap and not have to worry too much. So they're not going to be close enough into turn 1. They've got to try and nail the first sector of 2, 3, 4 and 5 to try and get anywhere close for maybe an opportunity into turn 11, but if not then it might be too late.
I'd say, thinking about now, you're looking at, I know this is to do with the lead battle, but surely these guys are just going to stay out to the end. I mean, I don't think we're actually going to see any pit stops. We won't skip too soon though, but to see Red Bull just gaining a tenth or two already there, they just seem to be a little bit more planted to the road there. They just seem to have perhaps looked after their tyres a little bit better maybe, but they just seem to have that car a little bit more settled through that first section of the circuit, which is very, very difficult. And look, they've probably broken the toe now as we head down towards turn 11.
Yeah, I think pretty much the opposite of what we would have wanted for viewing entertainment. No, Red Bull have actually nailed that first section. The Lazarus car looked twitchy as anything coming through there. Just didn't look planted at all, and the Red Bull car in front just seems to do what the driver wants it to do. So, not going to say they're home and dry because they're far from it, but they're in a sterling position at the moment. Got a bit of a gap to second place now, so they can just concentrate on leading from the front, which they seem to do very well from what we've seen so far. But the battle for third still rages on. Yep,
so as that battle disintegrates, if you like, we go back to this battle for third place. Rise Motorsport versus Fast Racers Forza. And Rise Motorsport just slowing up a little bit too much there on the entrance to the corner, getting a little bit sideways now as they come into turn number 13. Fast Racers Forza, it looks as if from the body language of that car that they are getting a little bit frustrated now. Fast Racers Forza in the car for them is Arthur Peronico. I think he is definitely wanting to get past that Rise car ASAP now, as he's seen the change of the lead happening ahead. He wants a little bit of the action as well.
Yeah, no, he's been looking at the back of this Rise car for, as far as he's concerned, far too long.
Yeah.
No, not just for this race, but the entire event, essentially. He's seen two cars come and go in terms of Lazarus and Red Bull, so he knows it can be done. And I think, he's a bit of almost a push to pass there, if you want. They're coming into that final corner. It'll be a bit of a dubious one if he makes this move stick into turn 1. There was, I think, a bit of contact to push the Rise car forwards into the braking zone, which is now giving him the undercut into turn 1. Rise still trying to defend it as best they can, obviously, but at the moment it looks like the Fast Racers Sports car's got it done, although the Rise car on the exit has got superb traction, maybe a little bit dubious with the cutting of the curb, but we'll see what the race stewards say after that one, but that might be tit for tat compared to what happened for the final corner to lead to that position.
I was going to say, I don't think Rise had to hit the front of that Fast Racers Sports car as they went by, but they certainly did. They got their elbows out definitely there, as Fast Racers Sports are now going to have to try and find their way back past once again. So I'd say that's pretty much even in terms of the contact there. So. There was a little bit of contact between both cars with two moves made, and I'd say that's fair enough now. So battle resumed as we go back down towards turn 11 on this lap number 20 of 28. And Fast Racers Sports once again trying to find their way through. We'll stay on board with them as we head up towards turn number 12. Can they take advantage of any slipstream here? It looks like it's starting to come into play now. Are they going to be able to look up the inside under braking? Rise kind of debating here whether they go defensive or not. They're not too sure whether to take the racing line. In the end, they kind of go 90% racing line, 10% defensive, but the door is left open in towards turn number 12, in towards turn number 13, and Fast Racers Forza are going to try and take advantage of it down the inside, and it looks like that may be move complete, or is it Rise Motorsport get back through again? So all this is doing is costing these two teams time, and Total Performance Racing will be hoping this continues to the checkered flag, and maybe they could catch up as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a luxury they've got at the moment for the Rise and Fast Racers Forza, in that they can battle like this without having to worry too much if it goes on for too many more laps. They will have to start worrying. So it's some nice battling though. Great to see these guys getting their elbows out to just about the limit and not beyond, I think, at this stage. But hopefully that won't descend into madness throughout the last few laps when they start getting a bit more desperate for that final podium spot. Because I think both these drivers so far would deserve that final podium spot, but we'll have to see who's actually going to come out on top.
Yeah, just having a look, for Rise it would be their first podium, and for Fast Racers Forza it would also be their first podium.
But it would be not a fourth place, which is probably the highlight for
yeah,
them.
so for either team, yeah. So that's what's at stake here, and I'm sure you probably know this from your experience, Harry. This is probably the stage where Fast Racers Forza, once you've tried a move at one place, it's hard to then make that move there again, isn't it? You've got to almost be a little bit careful of where you try your moves and when. Yeah,
I mean, they tried something obviously a bit unorthodox into turn 13, that right-hander, and they got the move partially done, but obviously coming through turns 13 and 14, the car on the outside then has the inside for 15 and 16, so it's so hard to make a move there, and with how little the slipstream seems to be playing in effect, it's difficult for these guys to make the move unless they've got a substantial speed advantage, or if there's a mistake. And at the moment, Rise are doing a great job of not making any mistakes to allow the Fast Racers Forza car through.
But all you'd say there then, though, is turn 13 on the final lap. Rise would be expecting a lunge there. But now Fast Racers Forza have shown their hand at that corner. They almost have to think of somewhere else to try and make them.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, or that could just be a sighter. Okay, so if we know there's a potential for a move there. So if we go in a bit with a bit more gusto, should we say, he might be able to make that one stick with a bit more authority without being overly aggressive. But I think from what we've seen from most of these drivers so far, I think they could launch an attack at any corner and probably make it stick.
Well, here we can see VP Gaming trying to fight with Jean Alesi. In for Jean Alesi is Giovanni Di Salvo this time around, and at the moment they're doing a good job to hold off the VP Gaming team. This is a battle for the last space within the top 10. VP Gaming, their best result of the season so far is a 9th, so they need a little bit of luck, you'd have to say, to try and improve on that this time, something to happen ahead of them. As for the Jean Alesi team, their best result is a 9th place, which they actually took in the last race.
He was going wide, the VP Gaming car. He just got on the curb on the braking and locked the tyres, and he's lost a bit of it, about a second or so to that Jean Alesi car, so a bit more work to catch that car back up again. Frustrating, you work lap after lap for a 10th or two to get within an overtaking position, and then before you just about get there, you then throw away a second of lap time. It's probably the worst feeling for a driver to have that happen.
It is indeed, isn't it? We'll get a full run through of the order for you in just a second as we get into the final 6 laps of the race. So, of course, out front we have Red Bull Racing, Lazarus, and then Rise, Fast Racers Forza are your top 4 as we go on board with Rise. Then it's Total Performance Racing, Virtual Drivers by TX3, Alien Motorsport have just gone into 7th past Solar Vision. Then it's Lightspeed Esports, Jean Alesi, VP Gaming. Then we have Raging Dragon, and then Team Fordzilla, Legion of Racers, Team Highlands Racing, and Bashira. What has happened to Team Fordzilla in this race? What a shame it has been for them, for a team that have just been getting some real good rhythm going.
And they run wide at turn 11. That's given the run to Fast Racers Forza onto the back straight. I'm sure, as I was just about to question whether there's actually a bit of tow rope connecting these two cars. Every time we seem to go on board them, they're nose to tail, but they're now side by side. Rise with the inside line, which is the preferable one. Fast Racers Forza are going to try and make it stick around the outside. Rise are probably going to get their elbows out, which they leave them racing room, to be fair. Fast Racers Forza are using a bit more track than you normally would do. They're still side by side through 13 and 14. They've just about got that move done. This is where they tried it last lap, as we said they felt it out, and they've managed to make it stick now. And Rise trying to sneak back up the inside. I don't think that one's going to stick, and Fast Racers Forza finally make that move past Rise Motorsport into the final podium position. But this battle is far from over, I imagine.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Fast Racers Forza. So all that talk was for nothing by me then. They did try that move once. They didn't make it work, so they knew what they had to do different this time. And Fast Racers Forza get themselves into the final podium position, and Rise come into the pits. Interesting decision there. Rise Motorsport come in. Now, how far down the order is this going to drop them? We will have to wait and see. But Fast Racers Forza now get up into 3rd place, and that would be their best result of the season, their first podium if they can hang on and stay there. Now, the gap between 1st and 2nd has quite significantly extended since we last checked in on it. There you can see the Red Bull car, and it doesn't look like there's anyone close to them at all. So Red Bull Racing leading very comfortably in this race so far. There is the Lazarus car in second place, and it is over 3 seconds back. So fantastic stuff by Red Bull. They just seem to have perhaps looked after the tyres better, I wonder, but they certainly look a lot more planted through that first sector.
Yeah, it's either that or they just found something in the setup similar to, for the Mazda at Silverstone, where it just clicks for the driver. We've not seen that car under its own esteem, twitching about, firing itself off at certain corners. The only time they've been in a bit of trouble is when they've had contact from other cars. That we rode on board with the Lazarus car following the Red Bull car through the first section of the circuit, and the Lazarus car was sort of twitching all over the place. Wasn't quite sure where it was going to end up on the racetrack, whereas the Red Bull car just sort of slid its way through like it was on silk. So they've obviously got something that's working well for them, which is good for them. They ruins the fun for us a little bit. They've made the move and now they've gone off into the distance. We don't get to see the race-long battle, but they've earned that position that they're in, and good luck to them. Well,
hopefully we can check back in with Rise Motorsport, because their pit stop has been completed, and let's have a look at what the situation is for Rise Motorsport. Now there they are, so 7th place, Alien Motorsport, which are in 6th. That's a good recovery from Alien Motorsport, considering where they were at one stage in the race. They were well outside the top 10 at one stage, Alien Motorsport. They had a 5th in the endurance race last time out, and at the moment they're doing a great job, Alien Motorsport. There they are, just ahead. Brandon Reed racing for them this time. They are currently sitting in 6th place, but Rise on fresh tyres are closing in very, very quick.
I'm just trying to think back. At the end of the first lap, someone pitted, and I'm just wondering if it was a Solar Vision Racing car that pitted at the end of the first lap, and they've already made a pit stop. So they've essentially undercut Rise.
Everyone.
Well, pretty much, because I think Rise have just been battling with fast races. So that might be, if the other cars have to pit, that might be a net 3rd position for Solar Vision Racing.
Right.
Don't quote me on that.
No,
but it's just a thought.
You're right.
It's a thought that's playing out of my head as I'm talking. So I'm just wondering if that is the case. Obviously, we'll see what happens, because there's only a handful of laps left. They're leaving the pit stops to the last minute, and they're running these tanks dry. Obviously, the car probably performs a lot better on a lighter fuel load than it does with new tyres. So they're leaving it as long as possible. I think when these guys come into the pit lane, they're mandatory to put in a full tank of fuel again. So they're making the most of it while they can. But obviously, Rise have they pitted a few laps before the end. Solar Vision played the complete opposite card of pitting at the end of the first lap.
I was going to say, Solar Vision undercut me there. I genuinely didn't notice that. Wow, who's paying this guy? Solar Vision Racing, 5th place. So they're just ahead of this at the moment. But as Harry correctly pointed out, they pitted on the first lap. Potentially. Did they come in on the first? I believe they did. So Solar Vision Racing pitted on the very first lap. That may have been a forced pit stop if they picked up some damage or something. But they're in the pits. Now they've come up to 5th place. So that's going to be an interesting watch to the end, isn't it? Here is Rise, though, trying to take advantage of their pit stop. Alien Motorsport is just ahead of them. And really, they should be getting past this Alien Motorsport car very quickly. They should make the move as they come down towards turn number 12 now, so we'll stay with them. That will put them up into 6th place, but there we go, down towards turn number 12. But we're looking at the Rise car at the moment, just trying to take advantage of this pit stop. There's Fordzilla, who have just made a move in the background. That is at turn number 11, and that is ahead of Pashura.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next sort of 3 or 4 laps, and if we're going to see more cars in the pit lane. I think the tyres are the main factor that we're looking at. So it's a case of, I don't know if it's fuel related or tyres related. If it's tyres, I think at this point in the race, you'd probably just go to the end. Is it worth coming in and losing, what, 30 seconds or so in a pit stop to put on new tyres for 2 or 3 laps? It's not going to be worth it, but it seems like a strange call from Rise to have done that.
Strange.
But obviously, we'll see what happens over the next, as I say, 3 or 4 laps and whether anyone comes in. But we don't think it's fuel related or fuel limited, this circuit in this car. But these cars staying out for another few laps at least.
Well, they're so Solar Vision are ahead of us, but their tyres are about as bad as anyone else's. Yeah. So Rise should catch up to them pretty quickly. We'll get the gap for you as soon as we can. But where realistically are they going to be able to finish from here? I mean, if no one else comes in, you'd say their best result could probably be a 5th place.
Which, considering they pitted from 4th, is a bit of an odd call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say we're not 100% sure as to how this one's going to play out, so stay with us to see exactly what unfolds and if anyone's going to be pitting. But I think, yeah, if it's tyre related, it's very strange to see someone pitting towards the end of a race when the pit stop time is so long and the pit loss time is so much compared to what you gain on fresh tyres isn't going to negate that in 2 or 3 laps. But obviously they'll be looking to close in on the Solar Vision car, of course, but ahead of that, I mean, I think, 4th place is currently...
What's happened to Solar Vision? They're driving on the grass there. That is not the track. That's an odd place for them to go off, wasn't it? They must have run very wide through turn number 8, got them on the grass through turn 9.
Tyre issues, I imagine.
But, yeah, Solar Vision are really struggling. I was just going to say, as you were talking there, we could see how much Rise had pulled away from Alien Motorsport. It was over a second at least through one sector alone. There they are in the background. So this is Solar Vision Racing, who, to remind you, pitted on the opening lap of the race. I've got up to 5th place, quietly going on with their business in the background. Then they fought their way through to 5th, and as Rise came in, they're now having to catch back up. So they did pit from 4th place, did Rise. They're now in 6th, but there is Solar Vision just ahead, and they're catching them very, very quickly. So this is pretty much a roll of the dice, isn't it, for Rise? It's like, it may work, but it might not, but they'd be happy with a top 5 finish either way.
Yeah, I think by pitting, Total Performance Racing obviously inherited the 4th place. Sorry, when the Rise car pitted, Total Performance Racing inherited the 4th. And just looking at the timings that just went across the top of the screen, I believe they're about 27 seconds ahead of the 5th place Solar Vision car. So that's way too much for the Rise car to make up. So
10 seconds a lap, isn't it?
Yeah, which, I mean, I know they're
ridiculous.
Quick, but they're not that quick. I mean, obviously they had a good first race, of course. We can't forget that, but 10 seconds a lap is magical, if anything. But yeah, strange one, that one.
Very strange. Very strange. But well, there we go. I guess only they know the reason for that, and I'm sure we'll hear all about it as you can get in touch. Hashtag LMES. I'm sure the teams will send in their comments as well and let us know how their races have gone. But let us know what you're thinking of the coverage so far as we look a little bit further back. Team Highlands Racing versus Pashur, isn't it? This the battle for.
So this is a fresh tyre versus old tyre battle. We saw Pashura pit, then we saw just after halfway through as they quite literally pushed the Team Highlands car out of the way. I mean, they were going to make the move anyway. I mean,
that was just
It's difficult because they deserve a penalty for that because they pushed another car off the track, but they didn't need to do that at all. It's a very silly one to have done, but I mean, at this point, it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, I think this is a battle for 15th place and 16th place, so it's not going to be the end of the world if they do get a penalty. But then again, it's not great to see. But there we are.
Yeah, there you go. Strange. It looked like an accident. I think just they're able to carry so much more speed, aren't they?
Just caught them out,
through turn 19 than Team Highlands. So they just caught the back of them. And it looked as if Team Highlands were preparing to get out the way anyway. But there we go. It's of course Team Highlands with penalties today. It's not been a good day for them. But here is Solar Vision Racing. We've talked about them, of course, making that pit stop. You almost think what they could have done without it. Now they're in 5th place. They probably could have been a couple places higher, fighting for top 4, top 3 even. So maybe that's something they'll look back on as well.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't have been able to fight. No, obviously they had great pace in the sprint race, and they got a deserved top finish there. But obviously they played a different strategy call. So this is the battle now, I think, for the rest of the race. Now we're going to have essentially a lap and a half from this point, or for these guys, 2 more laps, because the Red Bull car's already started that 27th lap ahead of them. And whether Rise can catch that gap in the time that's left, it's going to be close. Obviously they've got to catch them and overtake them, but with the tyres in the state they are, if they get close enough, I don't think they're going to be too challenged. It's just a case of whether they can close up enough.
Yeah, well, a 5th and a 3rd for Solar Vision. It's been a really good day for them, hasn't it? They've just another team that's just been so consistent. They have been in the top 10 every single race so far this season. So a team that's, although we've seen them pretty much facing the wrong way at some stage today, they rarely make any mistakes at all, and they always seem to get their tactics pretty spot on. But Solar Vision Racing, at the moment, you'd have to say they are definitely on track to get themselves a ticket to the Super Final. Of course, there's still 2 more rounds to go after this, but this consistency is what's going to really pay off come the end of the season.
Absolutely, of course, we're questioning what Rise's tactics and strategies, but let's not forget, if the first half of the race they put on an absolutely impressive performance to hold off the likes of Lazarus for as long as they did, and exactly, they were leading the race. They fell by the wayside when eventually to Lazarus and fast races Forza and Red Bull, but they put on a good show to hold those guys up and keep them behind for as long as they did. Again, they might just be wondering what could have been if we hadn't appeared, but sometimes a gamble's worth taking and it doesn't pay off. But they'll look back at this and probably understand what went wrong, what they would have done differently, if anything, and go from there on to the next event. But so far, I mean, 3rd and 5th, they wouldn't be able to complain too much about that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, they may have felt total performance may have come past anyway, so you know, it's worth taking that gamble. But we are on to the last lap of the race. It's absolutely flown by, isn't it? It's been a real hectic race overall, hasn't it, Harry? Probably one of the most chaotic we've had so far this season. It was like we said at the top of the broadcast, the endurance races always seem to be more entertaining than the sprint races. The same happened at Le Mans. Silverstone was an absolutely crazy race, and I'd say this one has been even more entertaining. Yeah,
I mean, a sprint race, you look at it on paper and you think that's where all the action's going to be. Everyone's going to be driving like lunatics and making dive bombs from here, there and everywhere, and they don't tend to be that way. Then we get to the endurance race where you think, right, it's a long race, just make sure you don't ruin your race early on, and then there's cars 4 wide into turn 2 all of a sudden. It's like, they seem to have the race strategies back to front, but it puts on a good show for us, which we're not going to complain about too much. But at the end of it, Red Bull at the moment, like last race, seem to always come out on top despite the troubles they had by being spun around early on. They still fought through and fought back and ended up taking what looks like it's going to be another dominant win.
It's that reverse grid order, isn't it, of the championship? It just means teams desperate to go forwards and then teams up ahead defending like crazy. But well, Red Bull Racing, it's been another perfect round for them, it's fair to say. We saw them facing the wrong way just a couple corners before this at the very start of the race, and questioned if they were going to be able to try and get back through and take yet another victory. But Red Bull Racing 4th and 9th at the opening round, and since then they have taken wins at both Silverstone and here at COTA as well. So it's going to be 4 wins on the bounce for Red Bull Racing, and they're going to close up to the championship lead even more as they come round the final corner. It's going to be Robin Bechter who takes 2 out of 2 here at COTA. Race number 6 of the Le Mans Esports Pro Team Series goes to Red Bull Racing as they take the checkered flag. Fantastic performance from them, almost 10 seconds to the good ahead of Lazarus, who continue to finish within the top 2 positions at every single race. That is impressive form indeed. And in 3rd place, it's going to be their first podium of the season. Fast Racers Forza, with their best result of the season so far, take a 3rd place. Bar that 14th place in the endurance last time out, they have not finished outside of the top 6. Then it was Total Performance Racing, another consistent round for them. Then Solar Vision, Rise, Alien Motorsport, Virtual Drivers by TX3, Jean Alesi. Then we had Fordzilla, VP Gaming, Raging Dragon, and then behind that, Lightspeed Esports, Legion of Racers, Bashura, and Team Highlands Racing. That is the order. What a fantastic performance from Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, that is as perfect, if not more perfect, than we saw last event. They had to really fight for that endurance race. Now, we saw them starting from the back, second to last in that endurance race, having the accident early on, so a lot of their hard work was then undone by having to come through from the back of the field again, and they done it without too many issues, made overtakes, clean overtakes, didn't get into too much trouble in terms of making their way through the field, and then drove off into the distance, essentially.
Brilliant performance from them to come back through the pack, wasn't it? The Red Bull Racing car. And I think we saw some new teams getting up into the lead at one stage, but at one stage it looked like we could have had 5 teams for the lead all the way to the end. Red Bull seemed to play the long game, didn't they? Their tyres seemed to be almost at the best towards the end. So do you reckon that was tactics that they employed from the start, or do you think that's a lot down to setup?
It'd probably be a bit both. I imagine they've got a start where they know at some point they're going to have to play the long game because it's an endurance race for a reason. But at the same time, they need a car that's going to be able to be quick on the straights, late braking, good downforce to make sure they can make the moves because they have to come from the back to the front. So they've got to find a nice balance. It looks like they've really nailed that for the last event and this event. So the other teams, especially the likes of Lazarus, who were leading the championship coming into this, I think they're still just about holding on to the top spot from Red Bull at this stage, going into the 4th event that we'll see later in March. Whether they can hold on to that, but someone's got to stop them. They're 4 on the bounce. That's incredible for them.
And before the start of the show, of course, we had 11 new drivers coming in this round. 11 drivers taking part for the first time. We thought it could have been jumbled up. I'd say overall, we did have some teams improving, but overall the field sort of finished as we may have expected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, although they're new drivers coming into this series and these events that we've not seen before, they're in the same teams, and usually the best teams will be looking to get the best drivers and attracting the best drivers. So it's not uncommon to see that. Obviously, there was still quite a lot of squabbling to make a name for themselves early on in these races, where we saw them 4 wide at multiple points during a lap. So they're all eager to make a name for themselves, and they show these teams what they can do. So although they've not been featured so far, this is what they can deliver going forward. So it's good that they've got the introduction now, and we'll see how they perform, because we're going to see, I think, pretty much all of them back at some point in the round or event 4 and event 5.
Well, it wasn't a straightforward win at all for Red Bull Racing. Let's take a look at some of the highlights then and talk back at some of the best moments for the race, because there was a lot of them. I think we've got to be prepared for a pretty
I don't know how we're going to commentate over this.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you to do it all on your own.
No, thanks, mate.
That. No,
yeah.
I'll go off and get a drink.
Let's try and describe 4 cars wide, shall we? Okay, right. So start of the race. We've got, obviously looking at what Red Bull done last time, they covered the inside. The lead car's not necessarily doing that, but we still run into the same problems. I think it was the Lightspeed Esports car you see flying up the inside there, completely misjudging the braking point and then going off wide. We then had a few more cars coming to blows, but no one really getting spun around too much here. We then go 4 wide to the John Lacey car, just poking its nose ahead, and it got dragged wide out through the outside there, so that's unfortunate for them. Coming out of turn 11 on to the back straight, you see 4 wide again, because that's all the rage nowadays apparently. And then coming into the braking zone, it was never going to work. We had lots of contact. We've got Rise in there, obviously a car that featured a lot in this race. The Red Bull car, the most notable one to be spun out on the first lap. They'd made good progress up to that point, but then found themselves at the back of the grid once again at Lazarus. They're making it through unscathed for most of the early part of the race, until they had this little incident with the Legion of Racers car. And then this was sort of where they fell back down the field for a little while before going on to lead the race for a while themselves.
It was really chaotic at the start. There you can see just another small incident. That was with the VP Gaming car, Fast Racers Forza, just making a touch. There you can see many times this happened. 3, 4 wide. Lazarus trying to pick their way through after losing a couple of places with that Legion of Racers contact. Down the inside of 3 cars, I think that was there, and pulled it off without any contact at all. One of the best moves of the race, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get a break on that tighter line onto such a tight corner to make it through without causing a big accident. No credit to them. Obviously, Fordzilla trying to do the same thing, but not succeeding. Unfortunately for them, that was a bit of contact with the Raging Dragon Esports called Lightspeed, once again getting caught up in that. They seem to be caught up in pretty much every accident that we saw, unfortunately, from them. So a bit of a disappointing race from their side. But the Red Bull car, after its early instance, managed to make its way through to the top of the field and then never looked back.
Yeah, there we could see the battling continuing. This was the Pashura car. Of course, they were one of the teams to make a pit stop. So only very few of them did. I think it was 3 in total in the end. That was Alien Motorsport car running wide. And there you can see Lightspeed Esports have a bit of that.
That was where Pashura picked up their 10-second penalty, I believe.
Tagged into a spin. Unfortunately, Pashura, one of a few teams that picked up penalties. That was an unfortunate incident there. Jean Lacey just getting caught on the front of the Lightspeed car. There was another incident which saw VP Gaming going around. They were another team to pick up a penalty. And then this is where Red Bull took the lead of the race.
Yeah, so the 2 titans essentially of the championship at the moment, isn't it? Lazarus on top, Red Bull trying to claw their way up from a poor event 1, and then within a lap or so of getting onto the back of the Lazarus car, they were through. And unfortunately for Lazarus, they weren't able to launch any kind of retaliation from that point. So they kept them honest for a few laps. You can see, they kept with them as best they could, but unfortunately couldn't launch an attack of their own. But the Fast Racers Forza car could do just a thing on Rise, and after many laps of staring at the back of that car, I think he got just a bit too bored and decided to try an orthodox position into turn 13. Didn't make it stick on this lap, which was lap 20. But then we're going to see, we're not going to see, unfortunately, the move then coming into play a lap later, but Red Bull crossing the 20th lap in first place. Kind of what we expect from them nowadays.
I mean, to spin at the start of the race, or be forced into it rather, and then to win by 10 seconds, that is extremely impressive. Yeah,
and it's demoralising for the rest of the teams and drivers to know that not only are they starting from the back, but after half a lap where they've made up maybe 5 or 6 positions, they then get spun around again to overtake all those cars once more. And to do so without any issues and then go on to win by 10 seconds. The other team's got to pick themselves up and work out how they can beat this team. They seem quite unstoppable ever since whatever they learned from the first event, and they've applied for event 2 and event 3. It's worked wonders, and the other teams have got to try and work out how to defeat them.
Some fantastic moves, although we did see some contact in there. Mostly, I think teams were allowing the other teams back through, wasn't it? So it didn't seem like there was much malicious driving, if you like, more just mistakes being happened. Yeah,
I mean, to make some kind of progress in these cars and these tracks, it can be difficult. You've got to try some more unorthodox moves, and maybe you make a bit of contact. And as long as you play by the rules, essentially, of if you hit someone and spin them around, you should be letting them back through, because if you don't, then you're probably going to find yourselves like with a penalty like Pashura did. But I think everyone else pretty much got away with it, apart from obviously Team Highlands. I think the first race had a grid penalty, didn't they, for their antics? But other than that, yeah, I mean, it was door to door, bumper to bumper, you name it, they had it.
And I'm going to exclude Red Bull from this one, considering they're unbeaten in 4 races. But which team has impressed you most? You know, let's take Red Bull out of it as, you know, the dominant winners. But which other team stood out for you?
Well, I mean, obviously we had Solar Vision Racing put on a great performance. I think 3rd and 6th. And obviously the 3rd place being the stand-up performance. Fast Racers Forza finally getting themselves onto the podium. And after so many 4th places, it's nice to see that they've made that extra step to gain that position. And obviously Rise, we saw them put on some great defensive driving, led the race, didn't become flustered, didn't make mistakes, they held on to it as best they could, and they had a great run. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them quite in the end, but it shows performance and promise for the future events for them to come.
Yeah, Rise in the top 10 in every single race. They're one of only a few teams, taking out the top 3. Only one of few teams do it. So we're seeing some huge consistency from the likes of them and Solar Vision as well. Unfortunate round for Forza, it didn't quite work out for them. After their brilliant second round, we were expecting them to maybe continue that, but they just seem to get themselves into a few incidents today.
Yeah, I think the sprint race they didn't do too bad. From what I can remember, their result wasn't too bad, but obviously in the endurance race, I think they got involved in just maybe one too many incidents, which cost them too much time and positions. And when you do that on numerous occasions, you find yourself falling down the order. And unfortunately, it didn't look like they quite had enough to make up the time that they lost.
A pair of ninths is a damage limitation, I guess you could say. We've got the championship standings ready, so let's get those up on screen for you now so we can see who sits where. So that's how close it is at the top. And $10,000 goes to the team at the head of this after 5 rounds. So Lazarus Racing with 146 points ahead of Red Bull Racing with 141. Total Performance Racing after this round have just dropped back from those top 2, but do not exclude them to be in the fight for the championship as well. Fast Racers Sports, Rise, Solar Vision, we talked about those 3 teams there. All of them sit within those top 6 qualifying spaces for the super final as well. Then we have Pashura, who are 10 points away from a top 6 in 7th place. So best of the rest at the moment. Virtual Drivers by TX3, only 11 points away from a top 6. Then we have the likes of Fordzilla in 9th, Alien Motorsport in 10th, Lightspeed Esports as well. 27 points for them, not the best day for them. Seem to be getting involved in incidents. We seem to be seeing them for the wrong reasons, if you like, at times. But they're still not a million miles away from the top 6. And then the teams that could really do with getting some points at the next couple of rounds. Jean Lacey, VP Gaming, Team Highlands Racing, Legion of Racers, and Raging Dragon. But they're all battling for those cash prizes. Money is going to go to all 16 teams with a minimum of $1,000 going to the teams lower down the field as well. So before we get the final thoughts of Harry, we're just going to take a look at what we've got coming up next in terms of Le Mans Esports, starting with the next Rivals event. Now, you can qualify to be in one of the Pro Am teams, one of 9 Pro Am teams through the Forza Rivals events. There's already been 4 of them. There's 2 more remaining, so make sure you get involved in this one. From the 20th of March to the 29th of March, set a time in the Ford Racing GT at Sebring. That's done on Forza Motorsport 7 through the Rivals events. If you're the quickest in your region at the end of the 29th of March, you will be coming along to race at the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. The next round of the Pro Team Series is going to be on the 28th of March, and we will be in the Ford Racing GT at Sebring. And then the next AM event, of course, big event. Speaking of Sebring, at the next round of the FIA World Endurance Championship at Sebring from the 18th to the 21st of March, we will have an AM individual qualifier. We had the first of those at the Autosport show, where anyone from the public could come along, set a time, and the top 3 qualify through to be one of 9 AM drivers racing at the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. If you're going to be at Sebring, come and find us by the WEC tent. We're going to be set up there. You can come in, set a time on the rigs, and if you're in the top 3 of the standings come the end of the weekend, you'll be joining us at the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. So fantastic to get more people involved, not only in esports, but getting along to the event as well.
Yeah, great opportunity for anybody and everybody. For those who are taking part at home from the Rivals event, and to those who are going to a race weekend for WEC and can qualify for this kind of event and take on the guys that you've seen tonight in the actual series final in Le Mans.
Yep, so of course the Rivals drivers, the 18 there and the 9 AM drivers will be combined together to make 9 teams, 2 pro drivers in each and an AM driver in each as well. So we had a quick look at what we've got coming up there next round. Fords at Sebring, looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. I mean, Sebring's a very challenging track at the best of times. Now it's so bumpy, so technical. Now we've seen these guys get into quite a lot of trouble on the COTA circuit tonight, so I'm really looking forward to what they can produce at Sebring, especially in that kind of car as well. No, more modern, obviously, so that'll probably suit a few more drivers than this one probably did. But ultimately, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Well, that's all from us. Thank you very much for tuning in for round number 3. Send in your comments. Use hashtag LMES. Give us a like. Give us a share. Make sure you're tuned in on the 28th of March for round number 4. And myself and Harry will be back. To finish us off, though, for this round, we're going to have a little bit of a preview to what we have coming up at Sebring. Of course, as we said, we're going to be there for the FIA World Endurance Championship race, where you can come and qualify to be one of 9 AM drivers racing at the Le Mans Esports Series Super Final. So if you're going to be there, make sure you come along, and maybe you'll see myself and Harry at Le Mans. What better encouragement do you want than that? But until the 28th of March, that's it from us. We will see you soon.
Checker flag is out. Is going to have to get the Sargent strikes way on the inside.
Oh, Renger van der Zande.